You're listening to The Scrimmage with Daniel Hargrove and Justin Domashevitz.
Yeah, that.
No, this. I don't feel good, Justin. I don't feel good. I feel bad. Bad vibes.
Bad, that's the opposite of good.
That's how I feel. I can't imagine what your household feels like actually being in it and not just a viewer of it. I am closer than your average viewer, but ow, I don't feel good.
No, it wasn't a good feeling. what were you talking about?
I think we all know what we're talking about.
It is a good feeling that Montesano's soccer team advanced to the
there we
state
go.
semifinals for the third consecutive year with multiple wins over private schools.
Yeah, take that.
Now they're going to go play another private school.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Which one are they playing now? I haven't gotten that far yet.
Seattle.
Seattle
Okay, so
Academy?
they beat University Prep
Ha
and they beat Bellevue Christian,
ha.
and now they're going to play Seattle Academy.
What are they? Aren't they the
somethings?
It's something stupid.
Yeah, stupid mascot.
It is a very stupid mascot. Yeah. I can't remember what it is. It's like the trees or
probably some
something like
stupid
that.
like huskies or ducks.
No, it's not that stupid.
Yeah, so we
It's
will
more like
have
the Duskies.
we will have a recap
Or the
of
Hucks.
Montesano's football game against Freeman, and we're going to talk about. Oh, Andrew, did we talk about having a guest on Zoom today? Are we going to be able to do that?
What guest?
Well, we were hoping to have Ian, and
I'm not sure if any of us facilitated this.
We
Well,
could do Ian if
Oh,
we
DK
want.
turning into a monster on this final drive.
I did text Ian, and he said probably.
Okay,
So
well,
then-
that's up to you guys. then.
Okay, all right. So, but you'll be able to make it work if it works.
Yeah.
Okay. Of course
I'll
you
work
are.
on that.
You're a superstar producer.
Does Seattle Academy offer financial aid?
I don't know.
How many students participate in arts and athletics?
Are you reading off the website?
Yeah, I'm trying to find their mascot.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
give
anyway,
me a
we
little
have-
bit of heads up because I'll wait to start up Zoom and stuff
Yeah.
until later.
Yes, I will give you 14 seconds warning.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. So we've got Montesano football, Montesano soccer to talk about. Seahawks, college football, Oregon State Beavers up to number 10.
Yeah,
North
let's go.
Carolina with a big football win in double overtime over Duke.
Woohoo! Take out the Devils.
But let's go ahead and start off by doing the old 2-minute drill there.
Let's go, huddle up. Gotta hurry. Hey, 2-minute situation, 44 seconds, hand the ball to ref. Gonna do it right. 3-jet Buckeye, don't worry.
The 2-minute drill starts now.
Hailey Van Lith's top-ranked defending champion LSU Tigers lost their season opener to Colorado, 92-78 on Monday. Daniel, do you get any pleasure from seeing your rival crash and burn?
I do. It's beautiful. I mean, it couldn't have happened to, a better person.
Prime Daniel Hargrove wouldn't have lost to Colorado.
Could Prime Daniel Hargrove beat Colorado?
Oh, you hate to see it. The Seattle Academy Cardinals, by the way. I don't know why I thought it was that stupid.
That is a
and
stupid
game-winning kick for Jason Myers. DK turns into a manimal, and your boy left chilling on the sidelines, Justin.
It's
Sorry
okay,
about that.
Sam.
Yeah,
Your
it's
future
okay.
is bright.
It wasn't his fault. Should Bill Belichick be fired, Justin? Just straight to the point.
I feel that it's kind of ridiculous that this conversation was actually coming up this week. I've heard it on one podcast, and I was like, surely they're the only ones talking about this.
No, and don't call me Shirley.
It's a thing, because there was actually a reporter who said, with semi-inside sources, that he could see it as a possibility that if things didn't go well this week, that Bill Belichick could be fired. And all I would say to those people is, how short is your memory? How spoiled are you? Like, did the fact that this guy's like 28 wins away from the all-time wins record, and actually, by the way, which is kind of funny, he's also way less than that away from the all-time losses record, but that's not the point. This guy's getting ready to be on the edge of, maybe 2 or 3 more seasons, and he could get to that all-time NFL wins record. He's won you 6 Super Bowls as a head coach and given you an era of dominance that's completely unprecedented in NFL history. Can you give him a few years to turn over the roster after they sold out to win with Brady, and then Brady left and they made a mistake on the first quarterback that he got? Like, give him a chance.
Nope.
What's wrong with you, Boston?
Nope.
College football question.
It's been how many years since a title?
Yeah, like
It's insane.
Like 6
It's been how many years since they've been
unacceptable?
It's been how many years since they've been competitive?
Like 1 or
Nah.
2?
Nah.
Yeah.
Nah.
Daniel, your Oregon State Beavers moved up to 10 in the AP poll with one of the most dominant victories in the history of the program. College football playoff?
I mean, if they win the last 2 and then win the Pac-12 tournament, or the Pac-12 title game, then the voters will all go, see, no Pac-12 teams deserve to be in.
Yeah, they'll be
and
number 5.
They'll be number 5. All I know is UW couldn't figure out Stanford, but we sure did. Woo!
Go Beavs.
Sorry, got a little out of hand there. Justin.
Yeah.
Seattle Seahawks win again. This time with Geno Smith directing a game-winning drive. Should his problems be overlooked because of the team's success?
For this season, yes, but I don't think anybody really views Geno Smith as the solution much past this and next season, maybe. So I think that
Sorry, I'm sorry. That
You're
wasn't
good.
intentional.
That's okay. The Seahawks should be in every draft looking for the possibility of a quarterback of the future. Obviously, they whiffed by not taking Sam Howell a couple years ago, and then he slid all the way down to the 5th round. But they should be looking for a quarterback of the future regardless. So you stick with Geno while you can because it's kind of working, and then you get somebody better when you have the opportunity to.
You don't want to give Drew Lock a shot? I mean, just listen to Pete talk about Drew Lock and how much they love him.
I would be fine with giving Drew Lock a shot if they were losing, but they're 6-3, right?
Something like that.
And tied with San Francisco
Yeah.
for first in the division.
Absolutely.
I think you roll with your defense is pretty good. I think you roll with what you're doing.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I want shock. I want awe.
Bench Geno.
There we go.
Bring in Drew Lock or sign Tim Tebow.
Oh, now you got me excited.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It just goes to show they should have signed Gardner Minshew when they had the chance.
Where's
Yeah.
Mannion?
Oh, Mannion would definitely be better than both of them.
Yeah, or Luton.
Or Luton.
Yeah. Or Matt Moore. Who are the other ones? Derek Anderson.
Sean Canfield.
Yeah, any of these guys. Any
Go all
of the
the way.
Beavers
You know what?
quarterbacks.
Just call Oregon State, talk to Jonathan Smith, and be like, "Look, I know you got a top 10 ranked football team here, but we want you to play quarterback for the rest of the Seahawks season.
Okay.
I know you're only like 5'8".
They'd probably be willing to do it. They need money.
Yeah.
Do they need money?
Oregon
Well,
State. Well,
Oregon State and
all of the other
Washington
colleges are trying to steal the remaining Pac-12 schools' money.
It's not going to work, though, right?
It can't, right?
Every time I see anybody talk about it, they're like, look at what the other schools are trying to do. But this isn't going to work, right?
Right? But they wouldn't do it, right? Right?
I mean,
It's bizarre.
It shouldn't work.
It's
you know what?
Like I'm saying it shouldn't work. I don't know. I'm kind of confident, but I'm not very confident.
Just in case anybody doesn't know what's going on.
right.
Do either of you feel confident enough to give like a brief summary of what's happening
I can
there?
give a very brief summary.
Okay, yeah.
So before the Pac-12 completely fell apart, there were a few schools that announced they were moving to a different conference. As soon as they made that public,
And that was
They
UW,
were-
Oregon, USC, and UCLA, right? Those were the first 4.
no, it's just USC and UCLA.
Okay, right. Those were the
way
first
before.
2, right?
Yeah.
Those were the first. And then what was Oregon and UW the next 2?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not even sure. But we're talking about like 6 months before,
Right, right.
or more.
Yeah.
And as soon as they made that information public, they were no longer considered a part of the Pac-12 board.
Right.
They weren't invited to meetings. Like, everyone agreed on this.
And it's in the bylaws,
Yes,
too.
and it's in the bylaws.
If you announce you're leaving, you're no longer on the board.
Yes, and the argument is over specific the specific words used, and whether saying we're going to be leaving next year counts as giving notice of leaving. It's
Oh my
they're
gosh.
bad arguments.
Yeah.
But it's lawyers.
Right.
Lawyers fighting with each other.
We should have our sponsor on to talk about
The
this.
problem
No relation.
is that when the rest of the teams decided they were leaving,
Right.
that left 2 teams that by rights should be the only 2 members of the Pac-12 board.
Right.
And then the Pac-12 tried to get all of the teams together in a board meeting
Right.
with the rumor is that they were planning to disband the Pac-12, which would mean every team remaining gets an equal share of everything.
Of all the money.
And
The Monets.
and WSU and Oregon State sued,
Yeah.
saying you can't do that. You're not on the Pac-12 board. There are
Exactly.
only 2 members of the Pac-12 board. It's us.
Yep.
And that is the fight.
That was a very good brief recap.
Thank you, Andrew.
And it's bizarre.
Yeah.
To
And
see the
especially-
argument of the other side, because you get UW going like, well, we need that money and it's because we want it.
Yeah. We need that money because it would help us going forward.
Yeah,
Yeah, it would help everyone going forward. You shouldn't have a right to it. You're an abandoner.
exactly. And especially, the 2 teams that are still in the Pac-12, they need the money the most because you guys are going to these major conferences.
It also
My dad says UW is Seattle. State Supreme Court relies on Seattle votes. Oh, Dad's going conspiracy.
I love a good conspiracy theory. We never went to the moon. Anyway,
Also, my dad says that I need to come out and give a prediction for the UW Oregon State game, but I don't want to jinx it because obviously we're
I
gonna
have
win.
a prediction for that game.
What is it?
Indigestion.
Yes, Tums.
yeah. Well, I think that this the way this college football season, especially from a Pac-12 perspective, the way it's shaking out is really interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think some of the teams like USC that everyone thought like, oh, this might be the team that can go represent the Pac-12 in their last season in the college football playoff. And it turns out they're kind of not that good.
Yeah.
And Caleb Williams is definitely not going to win the Heisman, and their defense can't stop anybody. UW was like the number 1 team over the first 4 weeks, and now they're still really good, but they've had a lot more close competitive games against teams that aren't as good.
Yeah, it feels like UW's playing like this.
Yeah.
They're like, we're undefeated.
Yes.
Oh,
They're playing not to lose.
Yeah. Oh, we won. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Yes.
I mean, if you beat Stanford by 1 touchdown,
Yeah.
the Oregon State just
The
showed
Arizona
what
State game was really
I
close.
feel
Yeah.
like if you were really playing like that, you would hold on to the ball until you got all the way into the end zone.
Yeah, I think we
Same.
all got
Yeah.
a good laugh out of that one.
That was amazing.
At what point in football is that going to stop happening?
Right?
Like when you see it, when I saw it happen the first time, I was like, "That's dumb. How does anybody ever make that mistake?"
Right.
Run into the end zone.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
Do we need to have does a team need to have like a rugby style policy where the play's not over till you put the ball down in the end zone?
Right. Well, like Kenneth Walker did for his celebration today. He dove and did a somersault into the end zone. And I was
Yes.
like, I like that one. That's a good celebration. I remember because as much as I would love this to just be a Deshaun Jackson at Oregon and a whoever this UW guy was at UW problem, Chad Ochocinco was the originator of this.
Yeah.
He just didn't get caught, and there wasn't replay at the time.
Yeah.
But Chad Ochocinco did this his senior year. He just straight dropped the ball before going to the end zone, and I remember at the time watching the game going, "Oh no! Ah! Stop it!" But because of those things, and then watching Deshaun Jackson do what he did twice, by the way, because that guy was a loony bin.
Right. Probably still is.
I remember having a touchdown where I scored in the Bearcats, and it was a breakaway situation. So I'm like all by myself running, and I remember running, and I took the ball at the end, and I was like reached it across the goal line and took 2 more steps, and then was like, Yeah, now I can drop the ball because I was so worried about it.
I think part of this systemic issue is that guys are so concerned with how they're going to celebrate when they do something cool that they don't finish executing the cool thing.
Right.
So even like when I'm watching the Seahawks after they get the interception and they're going and doing like an orchestrated celebration in the end zone, like I think that's fine. I'm definitely not going to be the guy that clutches my pearls over it.
Right.
But I'm always looking at those things going like, it's got to be so much more difficult as a coach right now to make sure your team knows, like they're disciplined enough to know you got to do the thing before you celebrate the thing.
Yes,
And
exactly.
It blows my mind every time I see somebody do, because wasn't there a play? Didn't Utah do this a couple years ago too?
Yeah.
Like there's been so many.
It's happened. Why is it always in the Pac-12?
I don't know. Well, why does this happen so much? Run into the end zone.
I hate it so much, and I know that this is an overreaction. I would straight up fire. Like I dismiss them from the team.
You got to play the sounder
I
on yourself.
hate it.
Yeah,
You got to play that was an overreaction.
was an
sounder on
overreaction.
yourself.
That was an overreaction.
I hate it so much. Finish the play.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. Even if I'm not rooting for a team,
And
I find it annoying to watch.
It's an overreaction because I realize that these guys are way too talented to just be kicked out like that.
yeah.
But holy cow, that's just not acceptable.
Right?
I have zero in common with the mentality of someone who starts celebrating before they finish crossing the goal line.
Yeah, like DK. I mean, he didn't drop the ball, but it was the same thing, right? He started celebrating early.
Yeah. Yeah. Do the thing. Then if
celebrate.
you're so inclined,
I'm
celebrate
not, that's
the
the
thing.
I'm
Yeah.
not anti-celebration.
Yeah.
At all.
We love celebration.
I think that the rules against celebrating with props or stuff are dumb.
Yep. You know what my least favorite Golden Tate play was?
When he was
When he was waving at the guy as he was still running.
Yeah.
Because as much as I love Golden Tate, I was like, hey, somebody could have caught you from behind that you weren't looking at. Like DK did, but even that guy wasn't. Buda Baker wasn't celebrating or anything.
No,
he just,
he was running for his life.
yeah,
Was
was a
who
monster
the
chasing
old-
him down.
Who was the old '90s player? Was it Don Beebe?
Oh no, it was Leon Lett.
Leon
Is
Lett.
that what you're thinking of?
Yeah,
the big
where,
guy. Who,
yeah, where he's running into the end zone, and then the little receiver comes up from behind. and
BB swatted it out of his hands.
yeah,
yes.
okay, yeah.
You're right. Yeah,
And I'm like, I think just have the discipline to go finish the play.
right.
Like we just need to eliminate celebrations before the play is over. Go finish the play. Stop
Yes.
being so concerned about how you're going to celebrate. See, if I was a
Even
coach,
Marshawn didn't grab his junk until he was over the line.
you're right. He leapt from outside the end zone, waited till he was across the goal line, then did it. It would be hard as a coach not to be like, look, this crap is happening too much. No celebrations. Because I'm too nervous that one of you goofballs is going to celebrate too early.
Yeah, but also remember when Marshawn walked across the line that other time? Like
Yeah.
it was pretty awesome, but
I was
same thing,
I was gonna
right?
say that before I said that he at least he waited till I was gonna say that Marshawn might be the one exception to that. But I feel like the thing there was I don't even know that he celebrated. He was just like caught it and was like, I'm gonna step into the end zone now.
Yeah.
Like-
well, that's true. He did have a little bit of a better view of the entire field because he was kind of on the sideline facing the whole field, so he could see everything at least.
And
So-
he wasn't dropping the ball.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen any of the Marshawn interviews that he's done since no longer being a player? Like he's
Some of them.
Yeah, not
I
all.
saw
I haven't seen
one-
the most recent where apparently he, like Pete's just his ex-coach and Russell's just a quarterback that he
well,
had at
some
one
of the
point.
stuff he said about Russ was really interesting.
Was it?
Yeah.
Like, He was saying like I didn't have his number.
Yeah.
If I wanted to get a hold of him, I had to go through his management. And then when he called me, he wouldn't give me his number.
That's so weird.
And
What
it
a
was
weirdo. Like, as whatever, because obviously I'm as pro Russ as I think most people anywhere could possibly still be.
Yeah, same.
That's weird.
That's really
Like,
weird.
we're learning more that Russ, regardless of what you think of his character, is a weirdo.
Yeah.
Like,
And he kind of definitely
I'm wondering-
seems there's enough circumstantial evidence that he seems to think he's a little bit better
Yeah.
than all the other players, or at least more important.
I've got a conversation I'm going to bring up with you on the way home if I remember.
Okay.
But I don't want to bring it up on the air.
Okay.
But it just popped into my head, and things kind of line up.
Subscribe to our Patreon if you want that conversation.
Whoa. Do I need to set that up?
Yeah, just Venmo us some money, and we'll call you.
We'll
give you our number.
That's a good point. We can do that. I keep thinking it would be really fun to have a Patreon and do bonus content, but I know what would happen is that we would set up a Patreon and then like 6 people would pay $2.99 a month and they'd get nothing.
Yep, not a darn thing.
No, I don't have any bonus content in me.
We would send them a picture of us with like a koozie or something.
Yeah, I still have some of the drawstring bags.
Oh, we could give them a drawstring bag.
Hey, subscribe to our Patreon. We'll send you a drawstring bag.
For $2.99, we'll give you
There
a
is no
drawstring bag.
Patreon. There is no Patreon.
There could be.
Huh?
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
any chats? Nope. still
I
none.
didn't post a graphic today that we were going live.
Well, somebody let people know that we're going live.
I sent.
If you filibuster for a bit, I'll post.
I posted the link to Facebook, but I didn't post anything ahead of time.
Okay,
to say,
so
we're going live at 4:30 today.
did you exit?
I did exit.
Okay, so people could know even though we don't have
Are
the.
we using X as a verb now? I prefer
I don't
posted
know.
it on X.
Well, actually, the problem is
personally.
exit is a word. So did you exit? Were you like asking me if I left the room?
Yeah. Did you exit?
Exit
I
what?
tweeted it on
See,
X.
that's exit.
It's still
But
exit.
No, did you exit? It's
Exit.
not eggs. It's not exit.
You pronounced EXIT exit. It's not
Exit.
EGGSIT.
Yes, it is. It's exit.
It's exit.
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 You say
Exit.
X. You enunciate the X that hard.
Exit.
You exit.
Yeah, exit.
I actually
This is
am with
like Will
Justin a little
Disley
bit
all
there.
over.
It makes
Exit-
sense.
Exit is
Exit.
sounds weird to
So
me.
now that I say it over and over again, it sounds bizarre. Also, describe like what are the jars sitting on over there? Like what?
Counter?
Okay, the whole thing though? Like the countertop?
The countertop?
Wow. Okay, so you enunciate the T.
Oh,
I wonder if this is because you grew up in Hawaii.
maybe.
Most of the people I
Hawaii?
talk to, it's countertop.
Counter.
And it's like
Countertop.
you drop the T and you just kind of add half a break in there. So it's like countertop. But you don't say countertop.
Do you think
But
that
you
this-
just said counter, and I was a little surprised by that.
Okay. Do you think this has anything to do with the fact that my name is Justin and my son's name is Peyton? And a lot of people say it Peyton.
Justin and Payton.
Peyton.
Peyton?
I don't like it. I would
Oh,
say
crap.
Peyton.
Oh my gosh, I totally say Peyton.
Yeah.
I dropped the T. Is it a PNW thing to drop the T, or is it just a Grace Harbor thing to drop the T?
I don't know.
Peyton. Justin.
Peyton.
I say the T in Justin.
Yeah, that's
though.
different. You're right. That's a different
But
one.
Peyton is definitely
Countertop.
one where I don't say Peyton.
Countertop.
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 Counter.
Maybe it's an Ocean
It's over
Beach
there on
Road
the
thing.
counter.
It's on the counter.
Okay, now we're just dropping into Wishkah here.
Well, my wife often leaves the G off the end of action verbs, like
running.
when there's an ing.
So she's running.
She's running.
She's
And I was like,
hustling.
You're running, huh? You're hustling? I'll say it like that to her, and then she'll give me a look like, stop being mean to me. You're being a jerk for no reason. And I was like, you know what you got when you married me. So,
A jerk.
yeah.
Yeah. You were very upfront and honest about that.
I was. I
Yeah.
don't know how much more I could possibly have been upfront and honest about the fact that I do not intend to behave appropriately.
My dad's throwing random things into the chat. Now, there's a documentary, I'll say documentary on documentary on Barry Sanders coming up on November 21st.
Ooh.
My dad says he can't wait. And
love
now
Barry
I can't wait either.
Nice.
And
What platform is it on?
I don't know.
Because that's an important part that now I get annoyed every time people start talking about, oh, this cool new thing that's on. And I'm like, oh, what is? And they're like Netflix. And I was like, I canceled that.
Yep, me too. Yep,
Because
for sure.
it's like 3 times the price of all the other ones. And
It's expensive.
Yeah, and a lot of the other ones have better stuff now.
Yep. But every now and then I'll see commercials for something on Netflix, and I'm like, oh, I want to watch that. Dang, it's on Netflix.
Yep.
I'm not sure if I want to watch the new Airbender stuff. Dad says it's going to be on Prime, so that's cool. I have Prime.
Yeah. I'm conflicted on all of it because of M. Night Shyamalan.
Is he involved in this one too?
No, but
Oh, okay.
he just ruined it for me.
Oh, yeah. I've never watched that one because you
Don't.
told me not to, and I
not.
love the original.
If you love
Even-
if you love the original, you would not like it.
Okay, I enjoyed Katara, but it definitely was a step down. Like the original was
Oh,
the
Korra?
best. Korra. Yeah, not Katara. Sorry, Korra.
I like it's that
Your
show
face
has a
told me that I said that wrong.
the show has a totally different vibe.
Totally different.
Totally different vibe. And I like Korra. I think she's a good representation of a certain type of strength and leadership. She's just not Aang.
Yeah.
And I just wanted Aang. And we
Exactly.
have now lost
I feel like
pretty much everybody who
My
may
dad's
have
probably super confused.
I feel like you guys should probably just start Airbenders
Podcast? Oh, dude, we should have an Airbender podcast.
Oh my god. That would have a Patreon.
Oh, yeah.
I would have bonus content coming out the yin yang.
Oh.
It would be his dogs.
Yeah.
It would be his dogs.
My dogs are named after Airbender characters, as were both of the bunnies I
Yeah.
owned.
Kai in church, by the way, I mentioned that he brought you up.
Yeah.
He said your dog would be named Ramses because, of the mascot for UNC. And I was like, he doesn't know Justin that well.
Well, if I'm being honest, when we were choosing names for the dog, we had a few possibilities, and we all voted as a family, and I definitely had Ramses as one of the options.
Yep.
But we ultimately decided, like, hey, that's something that you kind of love. How about we pick something that we all kind of like together? And I'm all on board with that.
Yep. Understandable.
Yeah.
Really quick before we move on to your favorite part of the show.
Yeah.
I said that if Oregon State wins out, realize that would be beating number 5 undefeated Washington, number 6 one loss to Washington, Oregon, and then probably one of those two teams yet again in the playoff.
Yeah.
I said that would probably still leave them at number 5 as a 2-loss Pac-12 team and out of the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Do you think that's accurate, or do you think they could creep up and pass Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, or Florida State? Which, by the way, why is Florida State so high?
Well, they're undefeated.
I know. I assumed they were undefeated.
Yeah.
But last I checked, don't they play in the ACC?
Mm-hmm.
Who the heck have they played?
Powerhouses like UNC.
Well, they just beat Miami this week. It's a very convincing victory. A 7-point victory over an unranked Miami
You're
team.
kidding. Like, I'm going to go look up Florida State. Why are they entrenched at number 4?
Daniel, it's Florida State. Everyone watches their games.
Apparently.
I think it's because Florida State was ranked high at the beginning of the season, and they've just kind of perpetually stayed there with their wins.
Do you think that could change? They're not very good.
The problem
I think
is
it's
that
probably more fair to say they haven't beaten anyone very good.
Okay, so they beat number 15 LSU. They played Southern Miss,
hasn't
not the
LSU
Southern
kind
Miss you think
I
of.
LSU has kind of gone
Who
down.
the heck
too,
is
though.
this Southern Miss? Wait. I was thinking Ole Miss. Who's Southern Miss? Anyway, some random slappy. They beat Boston College by 2 points.
Mm-hmm.
Boston College.
Yeah.
They beat Clemson by 7 points. They routed Virginia Tech. They routed Syracuse. They routed Duke. But all these teams are garbage. Wake Forest, Pittsburgh, and they beat Miami by 7.
Some of those teams are okay.
Their next game is against North Alabama. Yeah. I've never even heard of that. Who's North Alabama? That's not even a team you see randomly pop up in March Madness. Like, at least I've heard of these other teams.
I think that these are the kind of things that, like...
Goodness gracious!
In the college football playoff rankings, they do things clearly and obviously to... Like, they don't even try to hide the fact that they're trying to create conversation. So they'll put a team at number 1 who nobody thinks is number 1 because they know that all of the media will talk about it for a week until... And the only ranking
and realistically, the only... Yeah, you were just going to say.
Yeah.
The only one that matters is the last one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when you get to the... If UW and Florida State both get all the way through the season undefeated, these conversations will be happening when it's leading up to the college football playoff ranking coming out, because it's pretty indisputable that by the end of the season, UW's schedule will be significantly more difficult than Florida State's schedule.
Well, yeah, but what if a team that loses a couple times or once has to go up against undefeated but been playing against slappies the whole time?
Yeah. But did that...
Oh, by the way, you're going to love how stacked Georgia's schedule is. They started off by playing UT Martin. Not even just Martin. What's UT Martin? I haven't heard of either of those things. Ball State. South Carolina, which is at least a school. UAB. I didn't know they still had a football program.
Oh, it's
Kentucky.
University of Tennessee.
Oh, they have their strong SEC victory against Vanderbilt, though. And just got to keep Vanderbilt on the top of our mentions
That's
here.
your favorite SEC team.
Gosh. It's ridiculous, man. Anyway.
I think.
Sorry.
No, and then the other thing is that, Michigan and Ohio State, one of them is going to have a loss at some point.
Yeah.
And if Florida State and UW stay undefeated, it's kind of easy because then the undefeated teams go to the playoff.
Yep.
And the one-loss teams like Alabama and Ohio State or Michigan are out. But I don't think there's a really good path for a 2-loss team with a loss to Wazoo. And what was the other team they lost to?
The loss to WSU sucks now.
Yeah, it does.
Like,
and they lost to Arizona.
I feel
at
feel
least
bad
Arizona
about it now.
has turned out to be a pretty good team.
Yes.
But, having 2 losses and one of them being to a team that has turned out to be kind of bad.
Yeah.
is gonna
Wazoo has
hurt 'em.
definitely crumbled,
Yeah.
which hurts a lot.
So it feels like the only path for the Beavers to get there is a very unlikely path where a few of the teams ahead of them lose multiple times.
Yeah.
The thing that's frustrating about that too, Daniel.
But at least 2 of the teams ahead of them, they would have beaten in that case.
That's
And one of them they would have beaten twice.
Yeah.
The thing that's so frustrating about the WSU loss too is I think anybody who was watching the games would agree that the WSU that Oregon State played
Was
a
good.
different team.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
that.
it wasn't
Health-wise,
it
they
wasn't
were
the
a
same
drastically
team.
different team. Yeah. I'm depressed now.
Why? Beavers are having a great season. They're
They-
ranked number 10.
I know, and it's the first time they've been in a top 10 for so long.
I
But you know what I'm scared of? You know what I bring this up? It's because I'm scared they're going to lose to Oregon, they're going to lose to Washington, and then they'll be a 4-loss team and playing in some garbage bowl where they beat the crap out of yet another team in the bowl because they're not a draw.
Probably.
Well, who did they play? Oh, last year. I remember who they played.
Florida.
They played Anthony Richardson at Florida, which was a trash team, and they beat the snot out of them, and it wasn't even fun to watch. And that'll be the same thing that happens this year. They'll play some garbage team because Oregon State doesn't draw the numbers, so none of the bowls will be like, hey, let's get Oregon State. And they'll fall to some garbage SEC team. They'll roll them by 40, and I'll be like, yeah, that was fun. Glad I watched the first half of that disaster.
Or they'll beat Washington and Oregon and get a really good bowl game. That's not a college football playoff game, but a really good bowl game.
That would be nice. But that's the only way it happens, I guess, is what I'm saying.
I'm just trying to say,
And I'm trying to be realistic because
Wait.
I think they can win both of those games.
our
They
society
absolutely can.
makes us an all or nothing sports kind of a mindset.
Well,
where you
especially
gotta win the
college football.
You got to win the championship. or
College
nothing.
football is an all or nothing society.
It didn't used to be. It used to be you could celebrate all these different levels of bowl games, and now that the playoff is there, it's like if you didn't make the playoff, then what did you even play for?
I
I
mean,
think
it was
that
there
the
before
conference
that.
Championships have still mattered.
That's
I
true.
think that the bowl. I think that the meaning of the non-title winning bowl games has greatly diminished since number one, a bunch of players decided to stop playing in them,
Yeah.
and number two, now there's a playoff, so all those other ones seem less important.
I
Yeah.
agree about the bowl games.
Important. Yeah.
I agree about the bowl games, but I do think the conference championships have been still meaningful.
Yeah.
Like, people care about winning the conference championship, even if you're not going to the college playoffs.
That's true. That's true. I think the demise happened when you had to be undefeated, and even if so, you were undefeated and you didn't get the chance to play for a national title. Because the stupid thing that I hear is like, oh, every game's so important. And I'm like, yeah, until you lose a game, and then none of the games are important.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the frustrating part. But anyway, sorry, I didn't expect that to rabbit trail so hard. I apologize for that because I delayed Justin's favorite part of the show.
Oh, is that where we're going?
That's where we're at. I'm sorry.
Serving questions up on a silver platter where the points are made up and the rules don't matter. Time for Stump Daniel.
Stump Daniel is brought to you by the law office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz. No relation.
What's the A stand for?
I know Ian walked up to my dad
so funny.
before the game on Friday, and he was like, "Hey, I heard you have no relation to this guy." And he's like, No, he's my son. Because I had not explained to my dad the joke.
Yeah.
So I had to tell him afterwards. I was like, I just want you to know that that's a joke because I say that on the show. And the reason that's a joke is because obviously if there's a Damashevitz, it's not possible that I'm not related to
It
that.
was so funny. I was on the fringes of hearing that conversation, and but I had to like run back up the stairs to grab something, and I heard it happening as I was walking away, and I was just laughing to myself like,
That was funny.
That was good times.
Anyway,
That was the last of the good times that night. Sorry.
For Stump Daniel today, I heard on the. I only half watched the Seahawks game. Like I was watching it, but I was doing other things.
Right.
But Boye Mafe.
That's a name I've heard of. Sorry. No, yeah.
Is that the guy I'm thinking of?
Yeah, he's good.
Okay. So he has a sack 7 games in a row.
Did he get another one today?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
One of the easiest sacks I've ever seen in my life. Just ran unblocked up the middle and just tackled him down. But
Much easier than chasing a quarterback to the sideline and touching him as he goes out of bounds.
Exactly.
I just bring that up because Ian said the easiest sack you'll ever get when your son sacked Carter Studer as he was going out of bounds. Peyton had a hand on his back.
So with Maffe's 7 sacks in a row,
Yep.
he passed Michael Sinclair, I think. Anyway, it was a Seahawks record, 7 sacks, 7 games in a row. So I started thinking,
That's new.
are
Sorry.
the,
Rich.
Accurate.
Daniel's fighting back in the
I
segment.
started thinking, what were the best single season sack performances in Seahawk history? So I looked it up, and I was thinking,
Of course you did.
there was going to be a whole bunch of them in that
Legion of Boom era?
Legion of Boom era.
Right.
And I learned that actually a lot of them are a lot older than that.
Okay.
There are some recent ones, but most of the best ones are from the 80s and the 90s.
Ooh.
Daniel,
Great. We're going back to names I do not know.
I have the top 19 individual sack seasons in front of me. I'm gonna
You have the
give
top 19?
Well, it's because I screenshotted it,
Okay.
and that's how many would fit on the screen.
Francis commented, title games matter to teams in conferences. Independents don't give a rip. Oh, that makes sense. But the only
Yeah, because he's a
independent
Notre
is
Dame.
Notre Dame?
Yeah, he's a Notre Dame fan.
Right. That
So,
checks out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also
But Notre
it's Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Nobody
Notre
gives a
Dame.
rip anyway.
But they have the tradition of the gold helmets.
Yeah.
And Rudy Rudiger. Sorry.
Fake story. Anyway.
Hey.
Sorry.
Makes me cry every time.
I have the top 19 in front of me, and the reason that I have that is because I screenshotted it, and that's how much would fit on the screen.
Good. I like this.
And what I want to do, Daniel, because I think it would be really, really difficult to even. There's so many guys on here I've never heard of. So what I want you to do
okay.
is give me 3 names,
Okay.
and if they are on the list, you get a point,
Oh.
and if they're not on the list, you don't.
I feel like
You get all 3. Beaver Zone.
Beaver Zone.
You get 2. Coug Zone.
Coug Zone.
You get 1. Husky Zone.
Don't like that.
You get 0. Duck Zone. The worst of the zones.
Eugene, Oregon.
Eugene, Oregon.
Eugene, Oregon.
What a dump of a town.
Garbage place for garbage people.
So, Daniel, give me a name.
Okay, Gronk.
Who do you think is on this list of the top 19 individual sack performers in Seahawks history? Such a random number.
Yeah, I love it. 19. Was it Jay Buhner Day? What's going on?
Jay Buhner is not correct. That's one down.
Hey! Cortez Kennedy.
Cortez Kennedy, 5th on the list. In 1992, he had 14 sacks.
He had how many?
14.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
There's 4 guys better than that?
Yeah.
Dang.
I don't know who any of them are. Although one of them I
Spoilers.
Right?
one of them I definitely watched play at some point, so I probably should remember, but I don't.
Okay. I don't. Well, that sucked.
Quick little static there. Hopefully that was only for us.
What happened?
And
We don't know
hopefully-
what happened, but it's better now. Yeah. Francis also says that Rudy's a fake story, but he also cries as well. So glad we can agree on that.
Well, Francis cries pretty much every day.
Me too. I mean, isn't that part of that Jim Valvano speech? If you laugh, cry, and what is it? Something else every day, then you have had a good day.
Yeah, who knows?
So you've never had a good day, Justin.
Okay.
Chris Clemens.
Chris Clemens is on this list 3 times.
3 times? That should be a triple bonus.
In 2010 and 2011, he had 11 sacks, and in 2012, he had 11 and a half. We apologize. We're not
I
sure
don't
why
know
that.
why it's.
What is going on? What is that?
Something is happening. Is that a headphones thing, or is that?
I don't know.
Okay. If we leave that unplugged, can people still hear us?
Yes, it's still working. But
I don't hear Andrew, though. I think that's the only thing.
is unplugged, but also there's pops and crackles.
Yeah, lots of pops and crackles. It's like popcorn.
It's like.
This is weird.
Are there ghosts in our soundboard?
Welcome to the scrimmage. Where
Oh, I hear it again.
oh. Da 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 da.
Oh.
Da 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 da. Okay. That song is bizarre, but will be forever stuck in my head because of skating when I was a kid at the Harbor Arena.
When we chose to buy this soundboard.
Did we choose poorly?
Well, no. I think what happened was it was like, well, this one's like half the price of all the other ones, so if it doesn't work, who cares? We'll return it and get a better one.
Is that what we thought?
Maybe.
So.
Should we return it and get a better one?
Maybe.
My wife says we're back. Francis says
we're
best
okay.
show ever. Thanks a lot, Francis.
Daniel, give me a third name. You're 2 for 2. You can get to the Beeve zone if you get this one.
Beeve zone.
Gosh, I feel like there's some players from the Seahawks' first trip to the Super Bowl that I think would probably be good guesses, but I'm blanking on all of their names. Like, I'm blanking on who the defensive line was when Matt Hasselbeck went to the Super Bowl.
What year was that?
Like 2010, 11? Gosh, I can't even remember. Wow, I'm a bad fan. When did they first go? I know they lost to the Steelers, and there's a ton of bad calls.
In my mind, it was older than that.
Yeah, it probably was old. Oh, it was definitely older than that. It was like 2004?
6? 4?
6?
5?
Wow.
3?
Good thing that wasn't Stump Daniel. I'm going to cop out here and just say Michael Bennett.
You know what, Daniel? That's a terrible guess. But at least you're still in the Coug zone. Oh, Ian says it was 2005.
So, you said 2006, I said 2004, and it was 2005.
Yeah.
After I first said 2011, which was way off.
Yeah. Well, Daniel, the greatest Seahawk single-season sack number in history was in 1998. Michael Sinclair had 16 and a half.
Michael Sinclair sounds like a fake person.
I don't know who that is. I didn't live here then, so I have a little bit of an excuse.
Yes, you do.
You weren't a Seahawks fan, really.
I was
back then.
only
kind of.
I was 9 years old, so yeah. And we were much more a baseball household and a
Yeah.
Blazers household.
Number 2 on the list with 16 sacks. Jacob Green.
Who? Again, these are
From
fake names.
Before any of us were born in 1983.
These are like accountant names.
This is the one that I looked at and I thought I should remember this guy, but I don't.
Oh, Webster, and Cohen.
In 2007, Patrick Kearney had 14 and a half sacks.
I forgot that guy played for the Seahawks.
I don't remember him.
I remember him playing once for the Seahawks. Or like 1 year, but I totally forgot that he was good.
Yeah. Well, in 1980...
Was that in the... What year was that?
07.
Huh. Okay.
In 84, Jeff, again, before all of us were born,
Yep.
Jeff Bryant had 14 and a half sacks. I think Ian's mad that we forgot Patrick Kearney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's understandable.
Ian, by the way, will be our guest at around 5:30 here when we talk about Montesano soccer.
In 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're about to wrap up here. I'm not going to go through the whole list. I was just going to say Cortez Kennedy rounded out the top 5. You got that one right at 14 sacks.
Cortez was like the only player... I remember Brian Blades. Was it Brian Blades?
Not
Cortez Kennedy. No, Brian Blades was a receiver. I'm just listing the 90s Seahawks that I knew.
Yeah.
I knew Cortez Kennedy,
It was Ricky Waters. in the
Ricky
90s.
Waters,
Yeah, I kind of remember.
Brian Blades, and Joey Galloway. Those are like the only guys I remember from the 90s Seahawks.
I want to throw a few guys at you that are more modern guys.
Oh, and my dad always used to say when we dropped something, he always made a reference to that quarterback who had a ton of fumbles. And so that was the only thing I knew him by, and it turns out he was actually a pretty good quarterback.
Was it Fouts? Was it?
No, it was a Seahawks quarterback. It was Ian probably knows, but he led the league in fumbles. But apparently he was also a fairly good quarterback. But all I knew about him was he fumbled a lot. Because every time somebody dropped something in our house, my dad would be like, "Up."
That's a name I always forget.
Yeah, my dad should text me it.
2018, Frank Clark had 13 sacks. In 2016, Cliff Averill had 11 and a half sacks. And in 2018, Dave Krieg.
Dave Craig,
Yeah.
my dad texted me too. But it was funny because my dad's first text auto-corrected to Dave Crazy.
No.
And then he said Craig. There we go.
2018, Jaron Reed had 10 and a half. He was number 19.
That's crazy that our list is that. I don't know. I guess 10 and a half is a lot of sacks.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that'll conclude Stump Daniel, which is brought to you by the law office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz. No relation.
what's the A stand for?
We are going to do a local sports roundup. There's not a ton of stuff that happened.
Nope, it was a pretty light week.
We are going to do a local sports roundup.
I gotta get my basketball schedule
And then
worked
also,
out.
we're going to bring the voice of Grays Harbor Sports, Ian Cope, on
Yes.
to talk Montesano soccer with us. But first, let's take a quick commercial break. Do you have a legal situation and need someone on your side? Let the law office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz be your advocate. If you've been the victim of medical malpractice, suffered a personal injury, or need representation with real estate law, small business law, or estate planning, let Jeff Domashevitz put his 29 years of experience to work for you. Call Jeff Domashevitz today at 360-612-3991 or visit domashevitzlaw.com. That's DAMASIEWICZLAW.com.
Thank you again to our sponsors, the law office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz and Spivey Realty Group.
They're
Have you ever
really
heard-
realty.
Really Realty Group. Well, in that commercial there, it mentioned real estate law, and it got me thinking, is there such thing as like fake estate? Like we have real estate. Is there fake estate?
Probably.
And would we need fake estate law?
The only reason that you're saying these
Maybe
kinds
you-
of things is because you're a dad now. And so those jokes in your head sound funny.
It sounded funny in my head.
Yeah, and well, I thought it was funny too, because I'm also a dad.
Yeah.
Nobody else thought it was funny.
I mean, you'd probably really need help with the law and an attorney if you were dealing with fake estate stuff, right? Like, that's when you'd really need an attorney because you probably got ripped off.
Have I ever told you
Or maybe
That-
faux estate.
I can split wood in half just by looking at it? I
How?
saw it with my own eyes.
I knew something stupid was coming. But it's also really funny.
Saw it with my own eyes.
Okay, it's time for the local sports roundup. Montesano's girls soccer team came up with a pair of big playoff wins this week to advance to the state semifinal round on Wednesday. The 6-seeded Bulldogs hosted 11-seed Bellevue Christian and came away with a win on PKs. not DKs, after regulation and 2 overtime periods ended with a 1-1 tie. Monte won the shootout 4-1, that's not even close, with conversions from Bethany Henderson, Michaela Stanfield, Addie Kersker, and Ada Potts. Henderson also scored the Bulldogs' lone goal in regulation. And it sounds like, who's their goalie? Sounds like she did an excellent job in those PK situations.
Riley Timmons.
Timmons, yeah. Stood on her head, only giving up 1. On Saturday, Montesano got 2, or the other team choked. I guess the other team could have choked.
I watched them. She intimidated the other team so badly that they didn't kick the ball into the net.
That's first rule of PKs.
Yep.
Make the goalie do something.
Yeah.
Sorry. On Saturday, Montesano got 2 second-half goals from Sam Roundtree with a shutout by goalie. Hey, if I would have kept reading. Riley Timmons for a 2-0 win over the 3-seed University Prep. Overrated. The Bulldogs are in the semifinal round of the state tournament for the 3rd straight year and will face 2-seed Seattle Academy on Friday. They are very good.
Montesano's football season came to a close on Friday at Jack Rottle Field with a 28-21 loss to Freeman in a state playoff opener. The Bulldogs trailed 28-0 until Gabe Bodwell ran for a 1-yard touchdown with less than a minute left in the third quarter.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Montesano scored twice in the fourth quarter, first on a 20-yard TD pass from Tyson Perry to Bodie Poehler, then on a 24-yard pass from Perry to Mason Rasmussen, but couldn't secure an onside kick with 30 seconds left, ending the comeback attempt.
I've got a question about that.
Bodwell rushed 32 times for 177 yards in the contest. Poehler led the Bulldogs with 3 catches for 61 yards, rushed for 32 yards on 4 carries, and intercepted a pass in the first quarter.
You know, when you hear 32 times rushing, I feel weird for thinking he should have carried the ball more.
Montesano outgained Freeman by nearly 100 yards and converted 16 first downs compared to just 9 for the Scotties, but shot themselves in the foot with 5 turnovers and ill-timed penalties. Montesano will finish the season with a 10-1 record.
Yeah, ill-timed is a good way to describe the penalties.
Thank you.
We'll get
I wrote
more.
that.
Yeah, because it's not like they had many more than Freeman did.
Yeah.
We'll get into all this later, I'm sure. But they were just poorly timed. Sorry, anyway.
Time your penalties better.
Yeah, gosh. As more of the all-league sports teams have come out, we wanted to shout out the players who won MVP honors across Grace Harbor and Pacific counties. Congrats to Hoquiam's Christina Goulet for being named 1A Evergreen League Volleyball MVP. Raymond South Bend's Kendall Koski was named 2B Pacific League Volleyball MVP, and Raymond South Bend's Robbie Stigall named 2B Pacific North League Defensive MVP for football. In the 1A Evergreen League, Elma's Beta Valentine and Montesano's Michaela Stanfield shared MVP honors, while Monte's Bethany Henderson was named Offensive Player of the Year. Elma's Eliza Sibbett was named Defensive Player of the Year, and Monte's Riley Timmons was named Goalkeeper MVP. I'm surprised Emmy Spencer allowed that to happen. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. And I would say, if you're interested in I didn't put all of the all league honors into the local sports roundup because it's a lot.
That's a lot.
But I did want to say that the Daily World, I believe, has articles now out on all of them. So
Yes.
if you want to go check out who were the first team, second team, all league players from volleyball and football and soccer, go to the Daily World website. If you don't subscribe to the Daily World, you should, because we do. They do a lot to support our local athletes and recognize our local athletes. So jump on the Daily World and get a subscription and go check out those names.
I was trying to startle Andrew. I thought he was looking at the video feed, and I was like,
I
maybe
thought
if I
you'd
look
be-
at him really quick.
I thought your behavior was a little odd.
It was.
We have Ian.
We
Hey!
have Ian.
The voice of Grace Harbor Sports. Welcome.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going, well, it could be going better, but I guess 1 for 3 ain't bad. When we're talking about Montesano sports playing in state.
Yeah. I and then there was one. It's a sad day. Justin, I wanted to know how are you? How are you?
I'm fine.
How did you handle it? Is what I want to know.
You know what? My general strategy with handling it was, I have 2 other people in my home who are way more upset than I am, and I need to act and behave normally so that they'll know that I'm here for them and that we'll be okay. And everything's going to be fine and life will go on. So I did my best to just be totally fine after the game was over, talk to my boys. I have a freshman and a senior on that football team that lost, and they were very upset. My 9-year-old daughter was very jarred by the amount of teenage boys who were crying on the field at the end. And she's known a lot of these guys for years and years, and always she's like, these are the big tough guys, Dad. Why are they all crying? And I was like, well, Hallie, they're really sad. So that's why they're crying. So,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, it was a difficult weekend. It was a difficult night. But, sometimes as men and as adults, we need to just kind of put our own stuff aside and be there for the people who need us. So that was my general strategy.
Yeah, as I've gotten older and older, I've decided that Tom Hanks was full of crap. Just let the tears go.
Yeah, there is crying in baseball sometimes, is what Ian is saying there. And this was the first time this was football. I've called a bunch of these last games with Ian, and this is the first time that I've seen him have to physically turn around from the field during the broadcast. But, man, I feel like Ian and I picked each other up on that, because at one point Ian was describing things at the end of the game, and the players started going the handshake, and he had to stop and turn around, and so I started talking a little bit, and then my sentence went to and then Ian started talking, and I was like, okay, good, I can stop talking and cry for a little bit. So.
Was it reminiscent of Hoquiam basketball state?
It was close, but I'm not sure if it was quite that
Ian,
bad.
I don't know if you know that story, but Daniel and I broadcasted Hoquiam basketball state.
No, it wasn't that bad.
And Daniel, at the end of the game, sort of lost the ability to talk.
Yep.
Partly because he was very upset, and partly because he was shocked about what had just happened when they lost on a game-winning
buzzer beater.
And so I waited a second, and then I just started talking, and then, like 5 or 6 seconds go by, and Daniel regained his voice, and everything was fine. We all moved on with the broadcast.
You're very generous.
Sadly, that's the broadcast that no longer exists. I didn't get a chance to hear that one. I was over in DC at the time, and I thought, wow, that's got to be a great call. And I got back, and sadly the broadcast was lost. There's been a few of those ones, but I know well that feeling. I mean, I was on the air when my daughter played her last soccer game. I was on the air when we saw Sam Winter blow his knee out.
That was brutal.
Saw Braden Dorman, a kid who I'd known since he was in first grade, just melt into his dad's arms because he was so upset with the loss. It's something, and you tell your kids that it's coming. You say it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, but there's no preparing them for that gut punch. And when we have to sit up there in the press box and watch it, we know it's coming, and we know that what the realization for those kids, what it's going to look like, and it's not easy to watch. But yeah, that was the first time I actually had to turn around and look at the back of the press box, because it was difficult to see Bodie Polar and. I was looking for Peyton, but to see them come off the field and to see Jackson go out there on the field for the last 2 plays, knowing that his season was over, and that was essentially waving the white flag at that point that this game was over. It's not easy to see, but I'll tell you, Daniel, I told you I had a chance to go back and listen to the game. That fourth quarter that they put together, it really stunk that they had to be into that situation, but they just played their tails off trying to get back into that game. It was something to behold.
Absolutely. I actually described it to somebody today. I was at church and somebody asked what happened, and I was like, it wasn't that the other team was necessarily better, and I think if there was a fifth quarter, then it would have at least gone to overtime if Monte wouldn't have won. Like, that's how I felt. If there was a fifth quarter, we would have been golden, but there wasn't another quarter, and it was over.
Yeah, that possession, it was actually, when you think about it, it seems kind of benign when you think about it, but that possession that ended, I'm trying to remember exactly when it was, early fourth quarter, it ended with Tyson getting sacked, but there were 2 plays on that one. There was the Bodie Polar first down run where he was caught by one player, and if he's not caught by that player, he scores, and it's a tie game.
That was also,
and then that was where Torrin Kreitz caught the ball but lost it when he hit the ground. And yeah, that was it seems in the run of things, a drive that didn't end with a score being so critical, but they had 2 opportunities there, 2 very close plays, and ended up not getting it. But it was truly an inspiring comeback. Again, it stunk that they had to be in that. Hats off to Freeman. They played their tail off in the first half. But it was an inspiring comeback, and that is not me being a Monte homer, by the way.
No, you're a Monte homer for other reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it is hard. It's always hard when you lose to a team and then you walk away from it going, man, that team was not better than us.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying they're very good.
Good.
They're definitely the best team Monte has played all year.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's a tough pill to swallow when you walk away feeling that way. So
absolutely. And now I'm rooting for them like the rest of the way, because I don't know. I want them to show how good Monte was, and that they weren't some overrated team, especially since we just talked to what's his name from Evans rankings.
Matt.
Yeah, Matt. I couldn't remember his first name. But yeah, we just talked to them and talked about how good Monte was.
Well, I think, and I do want to get to soccer here, but just as a parting shot, I would say that I think they proved towards the end of the game that the problem wasn't that they were not better, but
Right.
You know, the thing that we've been worried about all year is that this team was untested, and like you have a lot of guys who were starting for the first time. There's a lot of inexperience, sophomores on the field. How are the guys who played last year I didn't worry about as much because the schedule was brutal. They know what it's like to play a good team. But how would these other guys respond when the level of competition raised, and it took them a while before they acclimated to it. When they did, they were able to show what they were capable of, but it just took too long.
It was the first time I saw that as drastic not in basketball.
Yeah.
Because I've covered a lot of basketball state teams where, like, they get to the Sun Dome and they're overwhelmed by the speed of the Sun Dome. Like, state basketball is so much different.
Yeah.
And the jump from league to districts is different, and the jump from districts to state is different, where, like, the intensity and the defense and everything is just ratcheted up. And all of a sudden you're like, hey, I used to be able to breathe when I crossed half court, and now I can't breathe because the defender is on me so tight, and every pass is pressured, and everything feels crazy, and the whole environment's nuts. And that's what it felt like in this first few quarters of the football game. Is like Monte was like, or some of the players who hadn't faced that before, they're like, oh, this other team's really good. And we got done with our last game where we won 71-0, and our best test was against Aberdeen, and we smoked them too.
Or Eatonville.
Was Eatonville a better team than Aberdeen? I don't know.
Eatonville provided better resistance against Monte for most of the game.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think I'd say those teams are pretty close to each other. Yeah.
All right, sorry. Enough football. Justin and I are going to have like an hour conversation about this later, where I'm just going to be pinging him with questions.
Yeah.
But we want to know what we don't know about, which is this Montesano soccer team, and you got to watch them play.
Yeah, I got to watch them play on Wednesday. Just fantastic back and forth affair. Bethany Henderson is, you mentioned that she was the offensive MVP. She is the postseason MVP right now for this team. We what did we call the Felix Romero onside kick? The sniper squib.
I called it the sniper squib on the broadcast. Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah,
because we were saying last week we kind of called it a laser kick, but I was like, that's not quite right. Sniper squib feels good.
Yeah.
I just call Bethany Henderson the sniper because, I mean, if you give her a set piece, she's going to put it in the net. It's ridiculous. We saw her do it in the clinching, the district or the state berth clinching win in the district semifinals, and then she did it again. They're down 1-0 after 1-0, after just a fantastic goal by Bellevue Christian. Nothing Riley Timmons could do about it. The players just stuck it right into the corner where she couldn't get to it, and then they get fouled just before halftime, just outside the penalty box, and she. From my angle up in the press box, you could see the left corner was wide open. They only put a 2-person wall in front of her, which kind of left me a little bit confused. But so that left a big opening on the left side of the net, and she just put it perfectly right there. It bounced off the keeper's hands and went in, and then it went to PKs. And I don't know if Riley Timmons intimidated the other players to the point where she wasn't able to.
She did.
They weren't able to focus.
Yeah, of course she did.
Yeah. She looked at him, and they were like, "Nope."
Yeah, no, I mean, and a lot of times in PKs, keepers will get up there and they'll try to get inside the head of the other player. They will, they'll dance back and forth. They'll, stare right at them. They'll chirp at them. Riley just gets in there. There's a couple of, jumps up in the air and pulls her knees up and and jumps up and touches the crossbar. But that's pretty much all she did. Had one player hit the post on the right side, and the third player who missed and basically set up Ada for the game winner. I really felt that she was walking there. I'm not going to name her by name, but I really felt that she was walking up from midfield. She had zero desire to be there. Yeah, it looked like she was physically uncomfortable. And then she tried to go high corner on it and just missed. Which I will give her credit. I always told my daughter that if you're going to go in a PK, miss wide, because that means you're at least trying to kick away from the keeper and you're trying to put it in a set area rather than just trying to blast it down the middle. So anyway, she missed wide and went for the high corner miss. And then Attic comes up, and you want to talk about this was amazing to watch after the fact. The keeper got hunched down, and Ada's all of like 5'1", something like that. But you want to talk about packing a punch and a kick. She went right at the keeper and over her head. So in I'm guessing 4 or 5 feet between the keeper's head and the crossbar, she went right at it. And the keeper actually made a little bit of a jump to the right. And by the time she realized the ball was coming right at her, she could not react in time. And the ball was in the back of the net by then. And then celebration ensued. And then Monte goes up to Sammamish High School to take on UPrep. And from everything I've heard, I had a chance to talk to some of the girls after they got back. From everything I've heard, it was a case of matching the wind as much as matching the other team, in that they had the wind in their face for the first half and were unable to do anything with it. So played a solid defensive game, went into halftime scoreless, then got the wind at their back in the second half and proceeded to take advantage of it with a couple of nice crosses, a couple of nice throw-ins. And Sam Roundtree, of all people, not the player who's one of the leading scorers for this team, but she ends up being in the right place at the right time on the far side of the net on a couple of throw-ins and a cross by Michaela Stanfield, and just buries 2 shots and goes on to the win. And Riley Timmons, weird, another shutout. That seems like all she does is pitch shutouts. 9 saves is what I was told she had in that game. And yeah, just an amazing showing by the Bulldogs to get into the semifinals for the 3rd year in a row. That's saying something.
I've got 2 questions, so remind me of the second one when we're done with the first one. As soon as you mentioned wind, Justin's face got really confused. So I think you're going to have to...
I do know what wind is.
He knows what wind is. But I think he needs to be explained to why wind being against you in soccer might impact the game. Am I reading that correctly?
That is 100% it, because I've known of wind effect on other sports, like definitely football.
Yeah.
I guess in my mind I thought the soccer ball spends so much time on the ground. I didn't realize... in my head, I did not realize wind was such a huge factor.
Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit?
To a certain extent. I mean, you do pass the ball on the ground a lot, but think about it with throw-ins, with crosses. You're trying to get it up in the air. The area where you're going to have the least amount of resistance from the other team is if you put a cross up into the air and redirect it either with your head or are able to dribble and control as after it comes down. So I think that's what they were trying to do from everything I talked to them about. And if you look at the video of the 2 goals that they scored in the second half, they were cases where they had throw-ins that they were able to throw deep into the pitch, in towards the penalty box, and another cross where they were able to cross the ball up into the penalty box before Sam was able to bury those 2 shots. So it does make a difference. It's not. It's. I don't think it. I don't know that matters as much as, say, if you're trying to kick a field goal or if you're throwing the football. The ball's not up in the air as much, but again, where are you going to have the most opportunity to get through a defender? It's by putting the ball over them rather than trying to put it through them on the ground.
I will posit that, especially like the difference between throwing a ball into the wind as a football A football's pointed. A soccer ball gets into the wind, and it is not built to go through the wind. It will go all sorts of different directions. So especially on throw-ins, but yeah, if you're lobbing a pass in there, it gets really interesting. And if you're playing on turf, I don't know if they're playing on turf, but if the wind's bad enough, shoot, you can't set the ball down without it rolling away. So it does affect some different things. So anyway, I saw that look on your face, and I was like, I've played in a storm before. Yes.
As a person who hasn't played soccer since they were 6 years old, I just learned something new.
Yeah.
I had no idea that the wind could have that profound of an impact on the game.
And apparently it was really windy as well. I mean, it's not like it wasn't just a nice little gust here and there. It was a pretty solid wind coming right at them. So first half definitely impacted the way that they played. Second half, they took advantage of it with it at their backs and were able to go out there and pick up a couple of goals.
The second thing I wanted,
question?
yes, there we go. The second question was, I know Riley's really good, and so I don't want to take anything away from her, but you said she pitches another shutout. It's fairly normal. We don't hear about the defensive players that much. We hear about goals, and we hear about the keeper. Can you talk a little bit about some of the defenders for this Monte team?
Yeah, Hazel Jones, Crass. They're actually missing one of their best ones in Liz York. She hurt her knee before the season, so she's out. But yeah, that backline defense, and that's something that Montesano has always had, at least in the years that I've watched him, is a really, really stout defense. And Riley Timmons has benefited from that. In her 3 years, she's had the likes of Maddie Campbell, Emma Salazar, Paige Leishanes, Liz York, Dakota Parks, Hazel Jones, and then the likes of Addie Kersker up at the midfield to help kind of shield away some of the attacks as well. It makes a big difference. And actually, I thought at the beginning of the season that was, or not the beginning of the season when the awards were announced, I actually thought that Amy Spencer should have been the keeper of the year, just based on the fact that Riley, again, taking nothing away from her, she's amazing and has been for 3 years. But Riley's got a really good defensive line in front of her. Now, I don't know if I don't really know that much about Elma's defensive line, but I know that for 3 years, the quality of the defenders that have been back there for Montesano has been top notch. And when you combine that back line defense with Riley Timmons in goal, good luck.
Yeah, it's amazing to me how the defenders and how that back line can really help or hurt a goalie when it comes to it, because you definitely see situations where you're like, man, you'd almost be better getting out of the way. But yeah, to have a good defensive line helps a ton.
Yeah, and I neglected to mention Carson Winthrop as well. Another fantastic defensive player for them. So yeah, now they get to take on the Seattle Academy, I believe, coming up in the semifinals. They've played them already. They fought them to a one draw. Did a PK shootout. Didn't need to, but did a PK shootout just because they said, hey, Seattle Prep came all the way down here. We're not going to let them go back without a win or a loss. And so they did a PK shootout, even though it was technically a draw, and Montesano ended up winning. Now, if they defeat or actually win or lose against Seattle Prep in the next game, whether it be the championship or the third, fourth place game, they go up against a team that has handled them in each of the last 2 or 3 years, I believe, in La Jolla, who they lost to for the third, fourth place game 2 years ago. They lost to them in the semifinals a year ago and lost to them in the regular season this year. Now, La Jolla is the defending champion, and they're just ridiculously good. La Center is another team that they could potentially face in either the consolation or in the championship. And La Center beat them 2-1 2 years ago in the district championship game, and beat them 3-0 in the district championship game this year. So La Center has had Montesano's number a couple of times. So I'm very interested to see exactly how this plays out for them, as they're definitely going to have a tough go the next 2 games that they play. But the good news is they know these teams. They've played well against one of them. They've struggled against another, and they've gone 50-50 against another. So I like their chances to get in there. If they can beat Seattle Academy, then I like their chances to get into the championship game.
So that is interesting then. They kind of ended up with, for them, what's the most favorable draw. Not saying that there's any easy games when you get into the Final Four, but knowing that they literally just lost to La Center and that they've struggled a lot with La Jolla over the last few years, that this team, they know they're capable of beating them. So that is interesting that even as the 6th seed, that they kind of ended up with a draw that gives them a shot to get into the title game, which now we know they've been in the Final Four each of the last 2 seasons, but they lost it. Did they finish 4th both seasons?
Yes.
Okay, so even getting to the title game would be a massive accomplishment, or finishing 3rd place would be progress for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you guys had me on after they lost to La Jolla for the 4th place game a couple of years ago. It was Issa's senior year. I remember I came on and I talked about the building of the program, and that Fidel Sanchez, Gary Mahorter, Chris Hutchings, Sam Stanfield, and Katie Grandstrom have been building. And this is the result of it. 3 years in a row. You look at, and Fidel talks about this all the time, you look at the teams that have made it into the semifinals outside of La Jolla. They don't necessarily come back next year. They graduate a lot of players. Deer Park, the team that won it all 2 years ago, hasn't been back to state since. La Jolla is maybe the exception to that. And when they beat Montesano 2 years ago for the 3rd, 4th place game, they had a bunch of freshmen and sophomores. Last year they had a bunch of sophomores and juniors. This year they had a bunch of juniors and seniors. So it's been a progression of things. Montesano is kind of the same way, although they have had pretty massive turnover when you look at the players that have graduated. I mean, that they lost, I think, 10 players 2 years ago, including Paige Leishanis and Jaden Morrison. Last year they lost Lily Causey, Vanna Prom, and Jaden King. This year, they say goodbye to a 3-time Evergreen League Most Valuable player in Michaela Stanfield and their all-league keeper in Riley Timmons. So they have had, when they've been able to graduate, they've had other players just step up, and that's all about the way the building the program goes. I know that there were a few parents that I spoke to when Fidel first started there, and a couple of them, and I won't name names, but they were critical of the fact that he packed the roster with 20, 22 players and got a lot of players playing time. That actually, and Daniel, you and I talk about this with football all the time, that's what breeds the longevity in the program. These kids, once they take over as starters or get regular playing time, they've already been up with the varsity, and they know how to play, they know how to win, and they know the system. So I think that really is it's really showing now just how the Montesano football program has been built with this, and how it's managed to have this solid play for 3 straight years.
I got one more question, and I know when we do these things, we try to make sure that we get as many names in as possible and get all the players recognition who don't get their names. And I love the fact that we were able to talk about the back line that's been such a strength of Montesano's team. There is one player that I want to discuss a little bit on this team, and the co-MVP of the league, and Michaela Stanfield. There's a legacy there. It's just another great Stanfield athlete that Montesano has had.
What? No.
And Michaela is committed to play soccer collegiately at Gonzaga, which is awesome. Yep. Like, she verbally committed a while ago, and then she had her official letter of intent, I believe, this week. And even though she missed a decent portion of the season with an injury, she still ends up being league MVP, and I would assume that's based somewhat on reputation, but also just on her tremendous impact on the game. So as we're wrapping up her senior season, it's going to be ending in a couple games regardless of what happens. I wanted you to give us some thoughts about Michaela as a player. You've seen her play quite a bit. What do you think she does that's so special, and what's the impact she has on the game?
She's one of the better ball handlers that I've seen. She's really good off the dribble. She can one-time the ball with the best of them. And when I think her and Jaden Morrison maybe have had some of the best ability to hook the ball, to bend it, if you will, and to take off from the corner of the penalty box and let it go and arc it into the corner. She's absolutely remarkable at that. But it stops and starts with her dribbling. She's one of the best ball handlers that you're ever going to come across. And yeah, I agree with you. I think that this was almost a this MVP was almost a reputation and a career recognition just to how good she has been, and now going on to play at the D1 level. I think it's well deserved. She's going to do great things there. Don't worry, there's another Stanfield coming up. Alexa Stanfield, who is, I believe, a freshman or sophomore this year. She is absolute. I was watching the game on Wednesday, and I was looking through my binoculars, and it was kind of a foggy night, and I was like, who is this long-legged girl that's just absolutely burning down the sidelines here and putting in these great throw-ins? And I looked through the binoculars, got the number, and looked down, like, oh, weird, it's another Stanfield. So yeah, Alexa Stanfield is another player who is, and you talk about developing at the right time. She's really coming into her own when they really need her, as they get into this this end of the season. And these last two games that are going to determine first, second, third, or fourth. So yeah, Michaela, brilliant season, and cut short by injury, but she's going to end it where it started for her. She's going to play in 3 semifinals, which is something that I think only her, Bethany, and Riley have done. I think there's only 3 players that can actually claim that they've played in 3 semifinals. Or started in 3 semifinals. So
that's
yeah,
a good point, because we don't want to get bogged down in the fact that like this is just kind of what they do.
Right.
Playing in the the state semifinal 3 years in a row is a massive accomplishment.
Massive.
Especially when you consider this, with the exception of Michaela, and I'm not sure if Addie does or anyone else does. They don't have a lot of travel team players. Mm-hmm. You look at La Jolla. They've got travel team players.
Shocker.
You look at La Center. Their top player's name Shayla. Oh, I can't remember her last name, but she plays for the Portland Thorns travel team.
I'm gonna pretend I know who that is.
Yeah,
I do. But
so
okay.
It's ridiculous. Montesano does it, in my opinion, the right way. They are a school program. And that just, again, speaks volumes for what the Bulldogs have built on the soccer pitch. And that's not me being a homer.
Yeah, look out, though. The goals program.
You're a homer for other reasons.
The goals program is growing, and we do see, like, I knew of Bethany
Right.
Henderson before because of the goals. And so I honestly think that that's just going to make this Monte team better, and it's also going to make this Elma team better. And as much as I
Hoquiam, because I think, doesn't Jemima Perez play?
I think so.
Yeah.
But as much as I squirm whenever I see travel teams, because I'm still trying to navigate this whole new sports landscape that we see in youth sports, but as a Hoquiam person, I'm just like, great, another Stanfield's coming up.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I'm
good night.
I've been covering
How many are there?
sports here long enough to, actually, this isn't even that long ago. I mean, Samantha Stanfield was scoring hat tricks as a freshman when I worked at the Vidette.
Yeah.
And between then and now, Jessica Stanfield was breaking the home run record in Monte softball.
Jeez, how many? There are some studs.
There's some
there.
Stanfield.
Anyway.
Couldn't we ask Coach Stanfield to make some boys so we could get them on the football field? Was that too much?
Wow.
Sometimes I just say things.
And with that bombshell,
And to answer your question, Daniel, Alexa is the last of the Stanfield.
Okay.
So
Well, Last of the Stanfield sounds like a movie.
Until the next generation comes up, because now, Ian, as you have experienced, and I am going to start experiencing, the next generation of people we've covered are starting to come through, and it's really freaking weird. I mean, one of my teammates his kid had a senior season, and then we're just going to keep seeing it, Ian, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I will never forget Trevor Turpin for that reason. When I looked out on the field and thought, Turpin, huh? And then I did the math and thought, oh no, Brett's son.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, man. We got some more football to dive into, and Justin has a unique view and also a unique insight to what we're going to talk about next.
And sometimes I just say things.
It's true, but we're going to talk a lot of Monte football after a break. Ian, thank you so much for joining and talking about this soccer team. Again, as Justin mentioned, we don't want to get too used to them being to the semifinals. That is a huge accomplishment, but thanks for coming on and talking about it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, we're going to take a commercial break as we get set to then talk about some Monte football and name our Spivey Real Estate Athlete of the Week. But first, a word from our sponsor. Spivey Realty Group's goal is to make buying, selling, investing, and renting real estate in Grace Harbor simple. They believe in 100% transparency and unparalleled communication with local expertise, tech-enhanced, and top-notch service for their friends, neighbors, and community. Their goal is simple. Get a group of strong-willed, hard-working people together who want to make a difference in Grace Harbor and to use real estate as the means of achieving that. Voted Grace Harbor's best real estate company. Find them on Facebook or visit graceharborrealestate.com. Spivey Realty Group, elevating small-town real estate. Thank you again to our sponsors, the Law Office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz and the Spivey Realty Group. And I gotta say, check out Chris Wood's videos on Facebook talking about realty. He works for Spivey Realty Group. I gotta say, he's making some awesome stuff right now that explains a lot of stuff about real estate. And as someone who, or excuse me, not Chris Wood anymore, Chris Pirog. Check out Chris Pirog on Facebook. He does a lot of stuff. He's at Grace Harbor Realtor as well, if you want to look him up. He works for Spivey Realty Group, and he has been putting out a ton of really excellent stuff when it comes to explaining realty and kind of the new way that realty works. A bunch of great, very informative videos.
Does he have one about why it's not fake estate?
Why it's not fake estate? I'll ask him to make one. I'll be like, hey, why is it real estate and not fake estate?
That would be helpful.
Or faux estate. But I'm actually watching one right now. Here's Chris. He works for, oh, that's not Chris. That's just a person. Here's Chris. And he works for Spivey Realty Group.
Chris is a good dude. Every time I see his videos, I just think about like beating him at Ultimate Frisbee.
I was going to say, do you think about him dominating at Ultimate Frisbee?
No, I think about me being better than him at Ultimate Frisbee.
Oh. Yeah. Do you remember when Chris and I, every time we were on a team?
Has an incredible fascination.
Imagination. There you go. Do you remember any time Chris and I were on the same team? Instant points.
I have an amazing imagination. I live in a fantasy world.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Chris and I, instant points because you've never heard of this term probably, but we're God brothers. And so we just had that connection.
That's not a real thing.
It's a thing.
Nope.
We made it up.
It's a thing.
Well, we're all brothers in Christ, so are we all God brothers? Or?
Possibly. I don't know. But so you know how you have godparents? Like if your parents die, somebody's like set to take care of you?
If my parents die, someone will take care of me, yes.
Yeah. Well, when Chris was little, my parents were his godparents.
Okay.
So I always joked with Chris that he was my godbrother. And so, we're godbrothers.
Yeah, that sounds Catholic.
It does kind of sound Catholic, does it? 8 kids. Catholic. Sorry, that's a Jim Gaffigan quote there. And it is time, Justin. We talked with Ian a little bit. We talked about the football game a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
This was not what I was expecting from this football game. I am apologizing. I felt like I jinxed him on the first score.
You probably did.
Because I was talking to Coach, is it Coach Ames?
Yeah.
Doug's a coach?
Yeah, I think he is
He's
definitely a coach,
yeah.
But he works with some of the younger grades and then he helps with stats, but he's definitely a coach.
Yeah, so I was talking with Coach Ames before the game, and we were talking about predictions, and he was like, well...
Also used to be a referee, so it's a good resource if you need rules clarification.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That would have been great while I was up there.
Yeah.
He was up in the booth, and we said, hey, what do you think? And he's like, well, I think it'll be a good game. I think we'll win, but I think we'll get scored on, which I want to see how the team responds to that since it's been so long. And I said... I don't think they're going to get scored on. I think they're going to win 28-0. So I feel like the first touchdown at least was on me. So I apologize for
Actually, they scored 28
How
points.
dare you, Daniel?
Yeah, they did.
Actually,
the whole thing is my fault.
The fact that
Is everything my fault?
the Montesano defense allowed 27 points all season leading into that game and then allowed 28 points in one game, which was the exact amount of points you said they were going to win by. Makes me feel like, based on the law of verbal traps, this is kind of your fault.
Is that a law? I never heard of that law before. I only heard about transitive properties.
Well, in transitive property, is it transitive law or is it just a property?
Oh, I like... Is it...
Transitive law?
Or is it real estate?
I can't
Or is
believe
it
you would
fake
do
estate?
this.
Is it transitive real estate?
Real estate.
Did
Okay.
you guys see that
So we can move on now.
I would like- no.
Let's talk about something
Francis pointed out that it's a snib kick?
Instead of a sniper
squib.
Sniper squib.
It's a snib squib. Snib.
Well, since you
squib
brought that up,
kick.
Justin, have you heard, or what is your opinion?
Mm-hmm.
This is the only team I've ever seen that's been fairly successful in recovering kickoffs. And they do it by drilling a kick right at some poor unsuspecting soul, and it drills off of them, and there's basically nothing they can do about it, and then they have an opportunity for it.
Yeah.
And they've done it multiple times this season.
Probably like 5.
Do you have any good answer for me to why when they needed an onside kick, they went with a traditional onside kick, which in the history of the annals of football is not successful? When they had this weapon of a kid who's actually had all of these onside kicks. And I was like, sweet, this is the one team. I was commentating, I was doing the radio broadcast, and I'm like, guys, we need an onside kick here. This is the one time I've ever felt fairly confident that we can get an onside kick. And then they went with the traditional, like, little rolling bouncer thing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what are you doing? You literally have the sniper squib. You have Felix Romero, the sniper himself, kicking for you. What are you doing?
I think because...
What? And also, on a kickoff, are you supposed to blow the play dead when it's offsides on the wrong team?
Nope.
That
Give
seems
me a
wrong.
freaking break!
I
They
definitely-
executed the sniper squib perfectly earlier in the game, and the officials blew it dead for offsides!
I definitely was not screaming about that on the sidelines when I should have been being an impartial media member.
You know what I said when they blew the whistle dead on the radio?
What?
No! That's what I said.
I didn't throw my hat.
I threw my pen. Second week in a row, for officiating reasons, I've spiked my pen into my notebook.
You are out of control.
I'm a maniac. Just nuts. But Justin,
Yeah.
why? Do you have any ideas?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about like your personal insights. I don't want any of your inside information.
No, I don't have any. I only have observation,
What is your observation?
which is that I think... Well,
Because they
first
did
of
it
all,
twice. I understand maybe
Yeah.
doing it once, but twice? Sorry. I'm okay.
No, you're good.
I love the kids on this team. As much as I'm a Hoquiam homer,
Yeah, you are.
I'll own it. I'll wear it.
Okay.
I'm not going to try and deny it.
Yeah.
I love the kids on this team.
You took your hat off. I'm going to match your energy.
I love the kids on this team. I was not ready for this season to be over. I'm not ready. And I know I am besides Andrew, who cares? But in this room, of the people we know, I am the least person affected by this.
So just me, because it's just us here.
Yeah, and your family. I was not ready for this. I'm not okay.
Yeah. As far as the onside kick goes specifically, there in this game for sure, but there's always a few things that happen during the game that I'm like, why did they do that?
Yeah.
And I have the rare benefit this year of having a senior on this team who knows the game plan and the playbook inside and out and can help sort of explain things to me in a way where I'm not always saying that I'm like, oh yeah, that was the right choice.
But at least you
But I
understand
can at least
it.
understand it. We didn't talk about the onside kick specifically, but I will say, as I've watched this team play, they've scored a lot of touchdowns, which means throughout the course of the season, they've had a lot of kickoffs.
A ton.
And while I'm saying they successfully recovered that laser squib probably about 5 times.
Sniper squib.
Sniper squib, sorry.
Snib.
Thank you. That was a good clarification, actually. While they successfully recovered it a handful of times, they tried it a lot.
True.
So,
How many times did they try a normal onside kick?
but how many times did they ever do a normal kick? Like, they did the sniper squib almost every kickoff.
Yeah.
And the reason that it doesn't work like that for most teams is because most teams don't have a Felix Romero.
Yeah, exactly.
Felix is really uniquely great at it, so even if he tried it 50 times, he probably got it about 5.
Which
So-
is pretty impressive when you think
Yeah.
about onside kick
1 in
conversion
10
rates.
is probably better than an onside kick percentage.
And I'm not
these
gonna
days.
I'm not gonna argue that at all.
Yeah.
My only thought is that I just don't want to make it seem like, if we do the sniper squib, it's like a 50% shot.
No,
It's not.
but it's something you've practiced a lot.
And to be honest,
done it in a game.
the onside kick is
And you
something,
got hosed on it in that own game.
the onside kick, the regular traditional onside kick, is something that Felix is very capable of.
I gotta say,
And he pushed that one, although he got a really good bounce, he pushed it a little bit too far down the field, like a few yards,
Yeah.
to where like that little margin
Right.
makes it more recoverable.
I gotta say, an onside kick, like the type that he tried,
Yeah.
really freaking hard to do.
Yeah.
And both of his attempts were really darn good. Like, you say that he pushed it a little bit, whatever.
Like 3 yards. I'm saying it was a very small margin, but
Dude,
it was
it's
just-
so hard to do
so
that.
hard.
After I got done complaining about why they didn't sniper squib it on the radio, I was like, but to be honest though, Felix just did a really freaking good job with both of those.
Felix is awesome.
He's a gifted kicker.
And only a junior, so you get another year of Felix Romero to watch.
He's really good. Gosh, I was kind of hoping that the officials didn't actually make a mistake on that one, but to now learn that they did make a mistake by
As
blowing
far
that
as
play
I
dead.
know, I mean,
why would you blow a play dead when it's the other team that makes the mistake?
yeah. And it's offsides. It's not like, when there's an offsides on defense where it's unabated to the quarterback,
Right.
or like you're in the neutral zone before the ball is snapped and you've affected the offensive line.
It's not like somebody was sprinting up to take out the kicker before
Yeah.
he kicked the ball.
the guy, and I watched the film on this because I didn't see offsides in real time.
Neither did I. Yeah.
It was literally a kid with his toes on the yard marker. He was offsides by 8 inches.
Come on!
And it was the right call. But
you don't blow it dead.
should have asked Doug Ames, but I don't think that play should have been blown dead.
Somebody who's watching, Google that for us.
Doug, if you're watching, can you
High
tell
school
me?
rules are so hard to pin down, though.
It's really true. And they
Jaden
changed-
not Jaden. What's Jaden's dad's name?
Corey.
Corey, if you're watching, let us know.
He might be watching. He's
Even-
recovering from surgery right now. So
Well, he's got nothing else to do.
Achilles surgery.
I'm sure there's Achilles surgery.
Something.
I know how that goes. By the way, is Coach Matthew okay? I saw him in a walking boot. Please tell me that's not
You saw him in a walking boot? He's been using one of those scooters.
Well, I'm assuming there was a walking boot under the scooter.
Okay.
But was that an Achilles? Because I've known too many people to do Achilles, myself included.
I'm not sure if I should disclose
Is he
personal
okay?
medical information,
Okay.
but he injured himself running scout team quarterback.
Dude. That's my type of vibe.
That's
right there.
respectable.
and
That
I
is
wa-
a respectable
I
injury.
Yeah.
walked by Matthew that week, and I told him, buddy, this is the first official signal that you're getting old. And he said, you're the 30th person to tell me that this week, and I'm going to tell you the same thing I told all the other ones. I'm in denial.
Yes.
So, but Matthew's been on a scooter on the sideline for the last couple weeks.
I don't like it. I don't like you telling him that he's getting old because he's a kid to me. So stop it.
Well, he won the
Nope.
state title as a senior
Nope.
in 2012.
Stop
Nope.
it. Nope.
Nope.
That was,
So
that was a couple
was
years ago.
11 years ago.
Stop it.
Which means he graduated high school in 2013,
Don't like it.
which is 10 years ago.
Stop it. Oh.
So he's in his late 20s now.
That's the worst. He's in his late 20s?
He graduated high school 10 years ago.
How old am I?
55.
That's the worst. All right, Justin.
It doesn't make you feel old enough that my son is about to graduate high school.
That also makes me feel
He's one
old.
of the better guests we've had.
Matthew.
Who? Matthew? Yeah, Matthew was a good
He's
guy.
My
good-
favorite part-
He's great.
My favorite part about Matthew is that when we had him on, Daniel, I don't remember if this was the week you were there or not.
When we had him
'Cause
on?
We've had Matthew on a couple of times.
Yeah, I was
and
on for one time.
I think one time I had him when you were gone
Yeah.
as like a fill-in co-host, and I was trying to talk to him about Seahawks and like all this other stuff, and I guess I don't know. Like I don't really know. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But then the moment we started talking about Mike Leach and his mascot competition and what would win between a unicorn and a gargoyle, Matthew was like, I got all kinds of opinions on this stuff, guys.
I love it. Yes. All right, back to the sad news.
Oh, I thought we were sidetracking to get away from it.
You were trying to, and I understand it. This had Deer Park vibes all over it. So much so that when Ian mentioned Deer Park with soccer, I almost threw up in my mouth just initially. And I know we like
You
to
spat the word Deer Park. He said it and you went Deer Park. Deer Park. You spat it.
I'm not to the point of Braden Dorman on it, where every time I drive by the street.
Deer Park Drive in Central Park.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You
You're
don't
not triggered? He gets triggered when he drives by.
But I've seen enough Freeman teams that I'm done with it. I'm done with it. I'm done with that matchup. I'm done with Monte or Hoquiam or whatever. I'm done with teams having to play Freeman.
Eatonville?
They're becoming Eatonville to
No,
me.
Eatonville lost to Freeman last year.
Oh, gotcha. Well, I don't care about Eatonville. I do know that last year. Was it last year? I do know that last year a Deer Park player stuck their foot under Paige Leishiness. That wasn't right. I'm not going to name names or anything, but
Who
that
was it?
I don't know.
Oh.
I told myself to not remember that player because I didn't want to skip it.
That was a Freeman player?
Yeah, Freeman player stuck their foot under Paige Leishiness when she
You
was
showed
coming
me
down
that
from a
video.
rebound.
We were outraged.
Brutal. So you know my feelings about Freeman.
Yeah.
They are a good team. They played very well in the first half. Their quarterback, who I actually, I hope is okay. But
When he got hurt, their coaches were furious. They thought it was a late hit.
it wasn't a late hit. It
I
was
watched-
like a yard into the
I
field.
watched the film
He
on
was
that.
trying to gain more yards.
I watched the film on that play 5 times
Yeah.
because I wanted to be sure
Yeah.
the contact happened inbounds.
Oh,
in
yeah.
case anyone's wondering.
And he was trying to gain more yards.
Yeah.
And was that Gabe Piala?
No, it was Mason Rasmussen.
Mason.
Yeah.
Came up and hit him with a good hit.
Yeah, good low hit. Hit him in the
Good
leg.
low hit.
Yeah.
Kid happened to come up hurt. It was a bummer.
Yeah.
At that point, that's when I thought the game was going to flip. It took a little bit though after
Well, they
that.
scored on that drive.
I thought it was the next drive.
Okay. Well, they scored on a drive with their backup quarterback.
It was the drive after that they scored. That's the difference in this game, man. Sorry, you're matching my energy again.
Yeah.
What? I'm doing all the talking. You have all the information, but I'm not sure what you can share.
I will say
You talk.
Okay, I got this. It's difficult to come away from a game when you feel like the other team wasn't better than you. And I think as I'm going to handle all this as delicately as possible, Montesano had a very easy regular season schedule. And I do want to address a couple of things about that because there's been some criticism that's come up. But when you
Criticism to their schedule?
go, yeah.
Sorry, that should be a non-starter, right?
Let's circle back to
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't know we were going back. Hats off.
Sorry.
All right, hats on, hats off. Okay. I think that in the beginning of this game, and when I say beginning, I mean like 2.5 quarters. You were really seeing the effect of guys who had not played a good team. Because if you go back to the beginning of the season, I told you, hey, the senior class is really strong. I think that this Montesano team is very capable. But I have a couple of areas of concern. And they were all guys who were not experienced, who didn't play a lot the previous year. And those guys were able to coast through a regular season where they weren't challenged very much. Aberdeen and Eatonville being the 2 toughest teams they played. Those teams are good. Eatonville was a 16 seed in the state tournament. Aberdeen was really close to being a 2A state tourney team.
Should have been, in my opinion. Sorry.
But Aberdeen also, when Aberdeen played Montesano, they played really badly. Like, they made so many mistakes that they couldn't overcome, and that maybe should have been a better game than it was, but it wasn't. It was 38-7. So when you go through a whole season of playing non-competitive football, and then you go up against Freeman, which is, in my opinion, equal to Monte or a little bit worse than Monte, but played a very competitive schedule throughout the regular season, you saw those guys making a lot of mistakes that they may not have made if they had seen that level of competition previous. They did figure it out, but it took a long time to get there.
And those mistakes were taken advantage of.
Yes.
Instead of, I made a mistake, but it doesn't really matter.
You're not going to win a lot of games when you turn the ball over 4 times in the first half.
Nope.
You're not going to...
To be honest, the score, you normally hear 4 turnovers in the first half, and the score is worse than what it was.
Yeah. You're not going to win a lot of games when you want to pound the ball up the middle, but as a change of pace, you want to get the ball outside, and your perimeter blocking is very bad. You're not going to win a lot of games when 2/5 of your offensive line doesn't execute their job on any given play. And like I said, they figured that stuff out. I believe that every single player who was on the field was capable of playing with the team that was in front of them, but it took too long to get there. And by the time they got there and they were like, oh, we actually can compete with these guys, they ran out of time. If they had a 5th quarter, great. But they didn't.
Andrew's playing with magnets over there. That's what that sound is.
Magnets, how do they work?
Yeah, I don't know. I think not to pick on him, but the most obvious example of this is just because he's the one in the stat line.
And he's also the microcosm of exactly what I just said.
Exactly. But Tyson Perry is a sophomore quarterback. He was not supposed to be the starting quarterback this year. And again, I'm only bringing him up because he's the only one that's easy to see. So it's not like we can protect we can't protect him because he's the one with the stats that show the turnovers, right? Yeah. But we saw him grow up in this game. Mm-hmm. We saw the start of the game, which you were like, oh, man. And for me, I'm going to get to that in a second. But we saw a kid, a sophomore, go from this is too much for me to a 4th quarter where he almost brought them back. And he played great in the 4th quarter. I think we had him for 8 for 11 for 119 yards and 2 touchdowns in the 4th quarter. I mean,
good balls on both of those touchdowns too.
Awesome. He played amazing. And to bounce back from what happened in the first half to do that mentally, awesome. Just awesome. But it's kind of the microcosm of what you just talked about, right? Like he hadn't had tougher opponents to do that with. Mm-hmm. I'm excited for what he's going to do in the future because of this game. Does that help this senior class? Not one bit. For me as an outsider looking in, I see a wet, windy night, and I watch the warm-ups, and I'm like, whew, tough to throw today. And then I watch the first quarter, and I see an interception, and I'm like, whew, that didn't look good. And then I see a second interception, and I'm like, whew, stop throwing it, please. And then I see a third interception, and I'm like, hey, stop it. And then they still go back to it, and there's a sack fumble, and I'm like, this isn't on the kids anymore. This is too long to adjust. And I'm not saying the game plan was wrong going in or that there was any issue with the thought process to decide the game plan, but you have to recognize sometimes and put the kids in the best position to succeed. And I've talked about this with other teams, and I honestly don't think I've ever had to say this with a Monte team before. So maybe that's why I feel weird saying it now. And I'm a little worried that I'm going to incur the wrath of some Monte person because they're so entrenched.
Probably Ian.
But I think this is on the coaches. Because kids are kids, and especially young kids are kids. And you didn't make the adjustment because while, let's say, whatever was going on in the running game, because I'm sure there was mistakes there too, but those mistakes didn't lead to turnovers, which are massive, massive issues, and yet you kept putting these players in the same position. And so that's my thought on it. Like, hey, you got to make that adjustment quicker. You can't keep putting this in the same position. You can't keep repeating yourself thinking that something's going to change. And I know Gabe ran the ball 32 times. I wanted him to have it more, but maybe more is not the solution. Maybe just more running is the solution. Because I know that every time the ball went up in the first half, bad things happened. Like it wasn't just neutral things happened, bad things happened. And so that's as somebody watching high school sports, I am so much more inclined to not blame the kids because they're kids. And I realize that can be an issue sometimes, but that I'm perfectly okay with saying, like, 1 interception, kid made a mistake. 2 interceptions, kid made a mistake. 3 interceptions, what are you doing calling that play again? What are you doing putting him in that position again? And so that's why I'm frustrated as a fan of these kids, not as a program, because as we know, I'm a Hoquiam guy.
Yeah, you hate Monte.
I hate Monte.
Yeah.
But as a fan of these kids, as a fan of your son, as a fan of Camden, as a fan of Bodie, as a fan of Gabe, as a fan of Gabe, Tyler, Jackson, I love these kids. And I look at it going, you have to adjust faster than this. And it frustrates me because, in my opinion, Montesano was the better team. And as you mentioned, it's so hard after a game thinking, we just lost to a team we were better than. And that's so hard. And again, I'm so impressed with Tyson for how he came back. That was not easy to do. And the fact that he kept playing and that they kept making plays and that I had the belief that they still were going to tie it up in the end and get things done until the very last onside kick didn't get recovered. I believed because of how that game was going. And that's part of the reason why I was so heartbroken. And I'm sure that's part of the reason all these kids were so heartbroken is because that belief was there that they were going to win this game. But I don't criticize the Monte coaching staff very much. But in this situation and in the Deer Park situation, it took you too long to adjust. In the Deer Park, at least you figured it out at halftime. In this one, you tried. I think there was some adjustments made at halftime. They just didn't work until the fourth quarter. And that's hard because I think this team was really, really, really good. And so that's frustrating. Was that too much of a rant? I don't want to put you in a bad situation
no, you're good.
here.
I'll say what I can say.
I don't. Again,
which is that
I'm good to take the heat here. I don't want to put you in a bad situation.
No, and I don't think I have a really good counter to most of the points that you made. I think I can take a little comfort in the fact that I understand why they did the game plan the way that they did. You know, if you watch what Freeman was doing defensively, they really loaded up the middle because they know Gabe Bodwell. Everybody knows the Gabe Bodwell.
He destroyed some dudes in this game.
And they just trusted that they were going to be able to be fast enough to get to whatever happened outside of that. And the counter from Monte was, we need to make sure we push the ball downfield. We need to make sure we get the ball outside. What I would have liked to have seen was more runs by people who weren't Gabe. Because ultimately, in the end, Gabe carried the ball 32 times.
Yeah.
And he had over 177 yards, or over 170 yards. And he plays defense too, and he's a great defender, but by the end of the game, he was so exhausted from the pounding he was taking that he had to step off the field on defense a lot.
I do want to say if a Monte coach goes back and listens to the broadcast, I was calling for more Bodwell on every play that he didn't touch the ball, and then after seeing the stats afterwards, I'm like, he touched it 32 times. Yeah. Maybe more of other people. But I'm not saying I have a great solution. I do want to bring that up. I'm not saying I have a great solution.
Well, and
because Gabe did touch it 32 times. And
if I'm going to go armchair quarterback and I'm going to play Saturday morning quarterback because these games happen on Friday.
Right.
I would say, maybe try to get the ball to Bodie on a run. Run sweeper or crossbuck with Bodie maybe 4 or 5 more times. Maybe you get Tarek Gunter the ball a few more times. That way you can run the ball more, but it's not all on Gabe.
Maybe Piola comes in every now and then.
Perhaps Gabe Piola comes in and plays fullback and gets the ball. Maybe you figure out a way to get the ball to Torrin Kreitz out of the backfield.
You know what I loved? And I realized there's all sorts of different things that happened, but one of my favorite plays of the game was when I was going to say it was when Felix ran, but I think Tyson actually ran this. Mm-hmm. And Gabe blocked for him, and Gabe demolished like 2 humans.
Yeah. Well, he's the fullback.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, so I think that, when I look back on it, I think it would have been really nice to run the ball. Number one, run the ball more, take the pressure off your sophomore quarterback early in the game.
Right.
I understand why. Completely understand why. Some of the passes that they were throwing, they were like, hey, let's do a quick hitter to the outside so we can keep the defense honest. They were throwing the ball down the field to try to keep the defense honest. It wasn't working.
Right.
And it's easy for me to look back now and say that was wrong because it didn't work.
Right.
So if I were going to build a game plan now, based on what I know already happened,
Right.
I would have more different players run the ball. But also having watched the film and seeing the blocking on certain of these run plays, I know that Gabe was sometimes getting 5 yards when a normal human would have gotten 1.
And that's because Gabe's awesome.
That's because Gabe's awesome. And I don't know how many more times in the game you could have given Gabe the ball.
Yeah.
So
this game was proof, because I was questioning it a little bit because the offensive line has been really good all year.
yeah.
This game was proof that Gabe is awesome.
Yeah, Gabe is awesome.
Oh my gosh, he
Yeah.
demolished dudes while running the football. Sorry.
Yes. He is awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm sad to see his high school football career end. However, he does still have track, and he's a state high jump champion. So we're going to get more Bodwell.
Repeat.
So while I completely understand your sentiment, and I agree with the fact that they tried a game plan, it didn't work, I take comfort in the fact that I know why they did it. Mm-hmm. And I trust our coaching staff. I trust the Monte coaching staff. It doesn't ease the sting of watching my son's senior season end when, he started playing football in 3rd grade and fell in love with the game. And I've watched the blood, sweat, and tears that have been poured into it over the last 10 years.
Right.
It doesn't make it easier to see it end, but I do know that, the people who are in charge of this program really know what they're doing, and they have the best intentions at heart with not only success on the field, but also success in helping mold, high quality young men who are going to be successful at life. So I thank the coaching staff. Even though we saw this end earlier than I thought that we would have liked it to. And yeah, with the benefit of hindsight, would I think, man, I really wish you guys would have done some stuff differently? Absolutely. I will address, though, some of the things that have come up on socials, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or whatever. I've seen some people commenting on, our stuff, or like the Friday Night Lights thread on Grays Harbor Scanner, or on stuff on Twitter, that, man, Monty really needs to do something about how terrible this league is, and this is the same problem all the time, and your schedule sucked. You should have scheduled better.
That's dumb.
So there's 2 separate things there.
Yeah.
One, I'll address this one first. The Evergreen 1A League, first of all, we're going to see reclassification, which means that next year the league's going to look different.
Barely. From what I've heard, barely.
Well, we won't have Eatonville.
Yeah.
We will have Rochester.
Oh.
There's
Look out for Rochester. Sorry.
still a possibility of a combo league.
I hope,
But-
but it doesn't look hopeful.
We don't really know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I want to say this about the Evergreen 1A League because it's easy to look at it this year and go, wow, that league stinks.
Yeah.
And it's true.
But look at last year.
But look at last year. Look at the year before that.
Most of the years we cream up on the Trico.
And you don't have to go that far back to find really competitive Hoquiam teams
Awesome Hoquiam teams.
that were great rivalries, just as good as Montesano.
Yeah.
So, like, the idea that, this Evergreen 1A League is just always garbage, that is crap. It's not true. It was bad this year. It was down this year. And I will also acknowledge there have been years in the past that has been true, but it's not the majority.
Yep.
The league ebbs and flows. This year, Montesano was head and shoulders above everyone else. The other issue that I want to address here is the schedule this year.
Yeah.
These schedules go on a 2-year rotation.
Yep.
So the schedule that Monty played this year literally is the exact same schedule they played last year.
Except for home and away switch, right?
Except home and away switch.
Yep.
So last year's strength of schedule was not an issue
It was awesome.
because Black Hills was a state playoff team. Shelton was a hair away from being a state playoff team. Aberdeen was 2 hairs away from being a state playoff team. Eatonville and Tenino. Last year, The Evergreen 1A league may have been the best 1A league in the state.
Yep.
They had 3 teams in the top 8
Yep.
seeding in the tournament.
Which is nuts.
So if you want to go out there and make the argument that, you should schedule better opponents in the non-league, whatever. Replace Columbia White Salmon with...
Basically, you would have to say, hey, we're going to schedule Tumwater every year because we know they're awesome. Name another Tumwater who's going to be good every year.
So the one argument
That's
about
the
this,
only thing you can do, right?
well, it's not the only thing you can do.
Well, or Napa Vine.
It's the
Like, you have to find another Montesano who you know is going to be good every year no matter what.
the big thing that people will bring up is, hey, instead of scheduling Columbia White Salmon as your non-league opponent, play another good 1A team from the east side of the state. Decide that you're going to go play Royal.
Hold up. From the east side?
Yeah. Well,
No.
Columbia's 4 hours away, so.
Well, don't do that either.
Yeah. Thank you. I had to drive there this year. And by the way,
Don't do that either.
There's when you go down to Grants Pass and then you cut back up into White Salmon, there's
Yeah.
a toll. It's like $3 to
What?
go over the bridge.
Gross.
If you don't pay it the first month, they charge you a $25 late fee.
Oh, dang.
So I now have a $28 bill sitting on my counter because I forgot to pay it last month.
Because Montesano had to go down to Columbia White Salmon and beat the snot out of him.
Not my fault.
I'm just going to
Anyway.
throw this out there. You don't have to go across the mountains.
So
You can play Napa Vine every year. You can. You'll lose sometimes.
But
Maybe you'll beat them sometimes.
I wouldn't want to schedule Napa Vine because
Why
you're
not?
gonna- because
Are you
you're gonna
scared?
Yeah, scared.
because Napa Vine's really good and you're going to get less. You're going to get more. The seeding committee is going to look less favorably on you losing to a 2B team than losing to a good 1A team. So if you're going to play a really good team,
Are you still going to get to state?
if you're going to play a really good team, play a team in your classification.
So go
So-
play Kings.
Schedule Kings or
Cascade
Nooksack
Christian.
or Cascade Christian or Royal. Like I can see that.
Well,
and
Cascade. Well,
my counterpoint,
Nooksack and Linden Christian are still like 9 hours away.
but it's not further than Columbia. Is my
That's
point.
true. That's true.
It's
Yeah.
like the same distance.
Yeah.
So my point is like you can do that. And this year, would it have been great to have one really good opponent on, even if you lose?
Exactly.
Have one really good opponent on the schedule. Yes. But last year, when we played the exact same schedule,
Yeah.
that would have been terrible. You end
Yep.
up in the same situation that like Connell or Toppenish or one of these teams that ends up with like 4 or 5 losses.
Yep.
And then you get a double-digit seed
Yep.
because you played a schedule that's too tough.
That's true.
So like there's not a
balance.
winning position here. Like
Yeah.
you schedule and when I don't think when Monte scheduled Shelton and Black Hills and Aberdeen, they thought they were going to be scheduling, 0 teams that make the state tournament.
Well, especially Aberdeen. Everybody was projecting them to be on the up and up.
So while I have if somebody said, "Wow, like Evans did, your guys' strength of schedule was weak. You don't have a signature win. I would seed you guys at 8."
Yep.
And to that logic, I can go, okay. But when people jump in and go, there's an issue here. You need to schedule harder teams. We need trips across the state to play against teams in the regular season. I'm like, you're looking at what happened right now.
Yep.
You're not looking at the bigger picture.
100%. Especially just last year.
Yeah.
And the frustrating part about this is Aberdeen played a bad game against you guys.
Yes.
And Aberdeen should have beat Washougal.
Mm-hmm.
I might ask you to filibuster here for a second, but Aberdeen was better than Washougal.
Well, Aberdeen,
I will say that 100%. Aberdeen was better than Washougal.
from what I
and
remember.
the fact that Washougal,
Yeah.
who barely beat Aberdeen, was seated higher than Chehalis,
Yeah.
I want to go into the committee room of that 2A tournament and genuinely question their sanity. Because that makes 0 sense. Now, Chehalis pooped on my dreams and lost 34-6. So
Yeah, but they were also playing a 6 seed. They should have been playing a 6 seed in the opening.
And let's see, what did Washougal do? Where they
They
at?
lost.
They lost 33-10
Yeah.
to Ording.
Ording. And Ording, a very good team that plays down in the Eatonville.
What was Washougal seeded? It doesn't show the seedings here.
8, I think.
Yeah, so That's so dumb.
It's
so dumb.
I know, like, first of all, I'm not going to be all over the seating committees about most of this stuff.
That was just the one weird one. I watched Aberdeen. I watched Chehalis. I watched Washougal.
Yeah.
Washougal wasn't that good.
I looked at the seating and I was like, WF Westcott hosed.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing. I'll bring up one other thing. In the 1A seating, I was all aboard I wish Monte was higher, but Kings really got hosed in all of this. Kings ended up losing to Seton Catholic in
Who
the first
saw
round.
that coming?
Nobody.
That's bizarre.
What I would say is, I never said, oh man, I think Kings is amazing. They're going to go win the state title.
Yeah.
I was looking at resume and who earned what.
Yeah.
And 2 lost teams didn't earn a seed higher than Kings, or didn't earn higher seeds. If I was going to say, like, Linden Christian, oh yeah, man, I fear them over probably anybody but Royal.
Yep.
And that's true. I would say they're probably, if I was going to pick teams just in order of who I think is best, I might say Linden Christian is the second best team in the state. But I'm not seeding them third. They lost 2 games.
Yeah.
So,
but is that because they scheduled too hard, like you were just saying?
Which is kind of my point. Which is like if you're looking
because
at
you were just saying that, right?
Seeding is not it's not necessarily about I'm going to put these teams in order of I think who would beat who. It's in who earned what. Like based on the resume of what you did during the season, did you earn this seed?
But should it be?
Well, that's part of my frustration, and I think Matt also kind of talked about this last week when we had him on Evan's rankings on X or Twitter. By the way, go check it out. Is I think that they don't give the seeding committees enough criteria for what you are seeding by. So, like last year, Lakeside was the 2 seed because they were the only undefeated team, but their strength of schedule was crap. But this year, Monte has crap strength of schedule, and that pumps them all the way down to the 7 seed.
Yeah.
So
dumb.
like there's just not consistency across years. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I wanted to address the fact that like if anybody, because I got in like a couple of mini arguments with people on social media this week talking about this. Like number one, stop talking about the Evergreen 1A league like it's always crap. It's not true. It was bad this year. It was down this year. It is not a consistent crap league.
Oh, that's weird. Linden Christian didn't play Linden this year.
And number 2,
I was going to say normally they play Linden every year, and they're a powerhouse.
I think they're in the same league because they have a combo league up there.
Well, they didn't play him this year.
And number 2, if you're going to criticize the way that Montesano scheduled their season, understand that these things go on a 2-year rotation, and nobody expected all these teams to be so bad as they were.
Exactly.
That's it. I'll get off my podium now.
That's a good podium to bring up. Absolutely.
We need to name a Spivey Athlete of the Week because this show's gone really long.
Yes, it has.
I got 3 nominations.
Okay. We have Sam Roundtree.
Yep.
2 goals.
Yep.
In the last win against University Prep.
Mm-hmm.
In their 2-0 win.
Yep.
We have Riley Timmons.
Yeah.
Excellent performance in the PK by intimidating the other team.
And also a clean sheet that
And then
game.
also a clean sheet in the next win. And then we have Babe Gobwell, otherwise known as Gabe Bodwell, who was an absolute
good guy.
Not a good guy. He was not a good guy to the other team. There is a player. They're going to have to. I don't know how they're going to scrub up number 5 from Jack Rottle Field, but there is a cardinal red number 5 imprinted on multiple spots of Jack Rottle Field, where that poor linebacker could not touch Gabe Bodwell without ending up flat on his back.
Yeah.
And just squished into the ground.
I think it's also fair, based on Ian's interview, to throw Bethany Henderson into this as well with the goal in their state opener.
Yeah.
And then also converting a PK there. I lean towards Sam
tough,
Roundtree
man.
here.
Yeah, that's where I'm leaning too.
2 goals in the state quarterfinal is a really big deal.
It's huge. That's where I'm leaning too, but I don't want to take away from how good Riley has been all year.
Goalkeeper MVP.
And how good she has been in this playoffs.
It actually would be easier.
Do we co-it?
We could co-it. But Riley, so in my mind, I'm like, all right, Riley's really good, but everybody knows Riley's really good.
Yeah, but
she
have
just
we
won.
recognized how good Riley is?
Did we? Well, we've talked about her. Did we ever name her athlete? I'm not sure if we did.
Maybe last year.
I love a co-Bulldog MVP. Get multiple Bulldog.
Well, shockingly, because
multiple Bulldog athletes
Montesano
of
is
the
the only
week.
team playing this week. All 3 of them are Bulldogs, so you might have a hard
4
time.
of them if you include Bethany Henderson.
Gosh darn it! I'm surprised.
A lot of Bulldogs.
Yeah,
let's
lots
do
of
a
Bulldogs.
4-way Bulldog athlete of the week.
It doesn't matter to me, but no.
The more Bulldogs, the better.
I say we go with the Bulldogs. I'm good with going Sam, but I'm also good if we go co-Sam, co-Riley.
I like that idea.
Okay. That's it.
Sam and Riley.
Sam and Riley. So, without further ado, our Spivey Realty Group athletes of the week are Sam Roundtree and Riley Timmons for their performances in the state soccer 1A girls soccer. I said that multiple times.
Soccer.
Tournament soccer, state
Soccer.
soccer, girls soccer, football. Riley Timmons,
Football.
Sam Roundtree for your impressive performances, propelling your teams into the state semifinals for the third year in a row. That's ridiculous. You are Spivey Realty Group athletes of the week.
Soccer. And I think that's actually a good place to end the show.
Yes, I agree. So,
So
for my trusty co-host, Justin, the sad household Damashevitz.
and my co-host Daniel, the closet Bulldog fan who wanted to name 4 Montesano players athletes of the week, Hargrove.
And our trusty producer, Andrew, sets up Zoom meetings like it's nothing.
Yeah, he did. 14 seconds of warning.
Gross. You've been listening to The Scrimmage.
Shouldn't have said that thing about Stanfield.